or fraud. But the fact of the matter, if you have a variance of over 20 million between your cash book balance and your bank reconciliation, then the police should be called in immediately. And that is the kind of characteristics that is evolving in the financial statements of the THA in 2015. And this is coming under Gerald Jack watch. And he, under the THA Act, is responsible for the production of the financial statement 3 months after the end of the financial year. So he has to take responsibility for that. So those are some of the domestic issues that I want to see this administration bring in a program to resolve in the interest of Tobago going forward. Because if those matters are not resolved, then we will continue to have this conversation and nothing fundamental will take place.
Yeah. Vanessa, I want to go back to you with respect to the point you made, very valid, about investment. What type of investment you think we should focus on? You know, given a decline or depreciating oil value or revenue and so on, how we should, I don't want to use the word diversify, that has been overused and abused and misunderstood, but where we should focus our investment?
Well, Tobago has a fundamental problem that we don't have a viable economy on the ground.
Yes.
This is a government administrative operation that we have here. And to the extent that we want to confront that, that would define an investment program. That's one aspect. The second aspect has to do with the fact that what the government tends to do here, the THA is a begging operation. What it does is it sends down what it calls a wish list.
Oh, that's what you call it, begging operation?
Yeah, that's a begging operation. For a reason. If you want to spend $5 billion in Tobago on a budget basis, then you have to ask what is the capacity of the Tobago economy to justify and fund that $5 billion. It would essentially mean, given our tax rates, that you need about $16–17 billion of GDP, of output produced in Tobago in any given year to justify that. We tend to get about $2.3 billion, which requires an economy of about $7 billion to justify that. Otherwise, you would be depending on the Trinidad economy, not simply the patronage from oil and gas, but the Trinidad economy. To end that dependence on Trinidad, you essentially need, over the next 30 years, to grow at about 6% per year. So your investment program has to solve two problems. You end dependence on Trinidad, and at the same time, you build a viable economy. That's the basis for that. To me, when I look at the state of the Tobago economy here, agriculture has been pretty much disappearing. So you have to do some food safety investments. And this is not backyard garden and so on. You have to go to work, sit down and do the analysis to determine what type of viable food safety agriculture, food security agriculture we could invest in. And that requires high-skilled, high-tech, big infrastructure for that. That's a kind of public utility that we need to set up in Tobago. We need that will take significant money.
An essential service.
Yeah, that's an essential service. and then you need something to diversify tourism.
Yes.
Right? You need to invest in the diversifiers of tourism in the Caribbean. Education, tertiary education for export, like in Grenada. You need to look at your ICT sector. That's public infrastructure, again, in the modern world, and a big exporter, like in India, you know, outsourcing of ICT. We have young people with creative skills. You've got to look in that direction. And then you have your creative industries, which is the hallmark of the diversification of Caribbean tourism. Your carnivals, your heritage, and so on. You have to do those three together with some food security agriculture. And that would require, and you have to do that to achieve a growth rate of about 6.4% in a context in which we are declining. So the scale and nature of investment is tied to the destroyed state of the Tobago economy over the last 15, 16 years.
And Sven made a very valid point about productivity in this place. How are we tackling that? And we are tackling the basic thing about productivity. You know,
well, that's why you need to bring investors from the rest of the world. THA has to get off its backsides. Go to Trinidad and find investors who are willing to come here to invest, and go to the rest of the world and try to get investors to come, who would manage the development of a private sector to allow you to get the disciplines he's talking about, because they can't be done from the public sector. People working in the government have no no significant productivity.
And Vanos is right.
We're already live from the legislature. We're joining them in about 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah, it's a significant, important people arriving. You should know that. All right. So as soon as they're ready and so on, I think this is the advisor to the Secretary for Finance is arriving there. So obviously.
Who is that?
I just
saying.
Yeah, so we could just get a little more light. It's a little dark.
Yeah.
The screen is a little dark, but we could make sure we could make out a lot more people.
Jerry, one of the areas.
Yeah. Okay, Chairman.
Talking about the investment and so on. One of the areas that we're going to have to, he's going to have to say something is that land license. Okay. Right now, we are not competing with anybody in the Caribbean. And we could just narrow it to tourism, but even if you want to do any kind of manufacturing, that license has chased people. I use simple words. Therefore, he's going to have to talk about it, and I would give him a strong suggestion to get rid of it. Go back to how we were. 1 acre if you want to do a house, not more than that. 5 acres if you want to do agriculture or hotel or something like that. Go back to that. It has
Chairman,
not.
you know, I mean, I understand what you're saying about that. You know, that was abused in the past.
Well, you can put things
And people were profiteering on the whole thing under the guise of investment.
But Jerry,
that was a serious issue, and I think that is really what they're trying to guard against. How we could really distinguish the persons who is really serious about serious investment from the person who just want to do profit making. They have a term for it. They call it. I can't remember what they call it. But they have to distinguish and find out who really serious.
well, Jerry, the first thing that you have to do when you get rid of that, you have to say what incentives that you have, and then you will start to attract people. And from the interviews and whatever it is, when people come to apply, then you will have a fair idea of who is serious or not. St. Lucia is 2,000 rooms they're opening before the end of the year. We are in no competition at all. We have to start to get competitive, get rid of that, put incentives in place, get serious people, go to those investment conferences that they're having all over the Caribbean. Let's narrow it a little bit, all over the Caribbean, and get investors. Don't tell us about Sandals alone. Okay, because we are not dependent on Sandals, whoever he may be. We are dependent on foreign direct investment. That's what we want. Let 20, 30 people come, like what they're doing in St. Lucia now, and you're going to get serious. How did they get serious people? Not by sitting down and being very narrow-minded, who come into abuse and whatever. We're going to know that by what we put in place. And as we interview, they must come and ask for concessions, and that's where you're going to get them. So we need that, and the import substitution. I'm talking about a little bit about the agriculture now. The first thing we have to do is to feed ourselves. So if we want to eliminate bringing up all these cornflakes, we have to have something product here that we can give our children for breakfast. If we want to import less rice, half the rice that we are importing, it means we must have cassava and potato and so on in the ground. Let us feed ourselves. That import substitution. Feed ourselves.
As in a documentary, Nigeria is making a nice rice from cassava.
Yes, well, of course. You understand me. Import substitution. What we're going to substitute vis-a-vis our import. Okay, so let's start with that for our agriculture. How do we feed ourselves before we start to talk about exporting agricultural products and all of that, you see?
And so,
just to take off from that and what Vanos was saying, I call it our food sovereignty program, where we have control over.
I like what Vanos call it, man. Food safety investment.
Right, you know. So I've been calling it over the years a food sovereignty program, where we look at our capabilities and we build our capacity to produce a certain percentage of the things that we consume. And we have control over that. And the kind of investment Vanos alluded to, that is what we need. But alongside that, we have to put in the institutional requirements in terms to build sustainability. Because one of the things we have recognized over the years is that we have not been able to sustain efforts. And because we have not approached these developments from an institutional perspective. Sustainability and viability is for me, is linked into your institutional capacity. And therefore, if we are going into that, we have to build out this agricultural sector in an institutional frame that provides for a continuous supply of skilled and adequately professionally trained workers for the sector. The monitoring and evaluation, the support system for storage, freeze blasting and all of that. So it's a huge, as Varna says, a huge utility investment we need to make, but we need to sit down and build this thing out in a good concept. We have to work out the matrix for this thing and understand what we need and what the investment is going to be required. And we have to have the institution that will provide the sector-specific training and build back the discipline into each sector going along. And
but as you're talking about agriculture, you think agriculture lost its way in terms of really providing the kind of food safety or the food security, if you want to call it that, in terms of having the island produce or be self-sufficient in food? I mean, so many people in the division. We should really be encouraging and holding people's hands and advising them.
Jerry, the incentives, when we were children, you never hear your mother talk about cess. My mother used to get it, I'm sure your mother used to get it too, okay? Because she planted the bene and she planted the corner piece, and the agricultural people come and inspect it.
Here we see the Secretary for Finance arriving here.
And those incentives was based on output.
That's right.
So you may have to go back to those type of incentives.
And see your plant underground, small or big.
As opposed to giving incentive for inputs into the agricultural sector. If we want to move productivity, we may have to make the incentive output based in terms of so those are some of the things we need to do. Yes. But as Vanessa said, there is no organized structure to drive agriculture. Where is the science? Where is the technology? Are we deploying to push this and to make this thing work? There's none. So the thing just evolving on its own, random walk. You know, a man doing a little cassava thing. They have a cassava company. What have we organized in Tobago to produce cassava? Where is the cassava plantations in Tobago to drive this cassava company? We have directors being paid stipend monthly for a cassava company that have an office on the Esplanade. And we're buying foreign from a man making it in Belgarden, and the whole cove down there. We should have a massive. So you see, there's an absence of mind, leadership, critical thinking, and strategic management in the whole operation of Tobago. And if we don't fix that, and it has to do with the education Vanos is talking about.
Yeah.
But you see,
and look at the agriculture secretary just I doubt he's unfortunately didn't hear us here, man. He just entering
a point I want to make, because I have the studies. Where you have the Cove Industrial Estate is a wrong place to have it, because that 150 acres is the most fertile piece of land in that whole strip, starting from Lowland Estate, go down to Cove, go down to Friendship, go down to Killigrew. Okay? They move farmers from there and put that Cove Industrial Estate, wrong place to put. That should have been whole thing 150 acres in cassava. You understand me? The soil studies tell you that.
The thing about agriculture, as anything you call import substitution around the world, is that it's a high-skilled activity.
Very, yes.
If you're going to do it, you have to think through carefully where the skills are going to come from. You're talking about people with bachelor's and master's degrees in agriculture, backed by a major research capability.
Science and technology.
A proper system.
Science and technology.
And it won't be a lot of farmers, it will just be a few people.
Major farmers.
Highly concentrated skills doing that.
You think we should have zones for different things? Have zones like a zone for livestock production, a zone for vegetable or root crop, a zone for barley for manufacturing or processing. Do we need to have to zone the place?
As it is now, we don't know because we have no data.
We have no data.
Yes. We haven't long. It's been a long time since we've looked at our soil types,
and capabilities.
Stuff like that. So we really don't know. We have to sit down and do the work, and this is all going to have to be fresh stuff to design an agriculture to suit Tobago. But Tobago's future will not be based on...
So you think we have to start from soil type? I mean, the soil type has not changed significantly over the years since Dr. Ahmad did his big soil thing for Tobago and Trinidad, and I think in the Caribbean.
Well, what part of it you didn't
different
put
areas. This is why I said zoning had to be very particular. We had to be and have some system of zoning. We already know the soil type in the different areas.
Well, remember you put houses on a lot.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we can't base a thing agricultural plan based on just agricultural load.
It's what's left. You have to decide. You look back.
Where future development is going.
Bacolet is going into housing.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you have to say what's left from the records you have, and then make a decision, where are the skills, who are the people in Tobago
Exactly.
with the skills, and so on. What scale of investment? Trinidad and Tobago, remember, produces $300 million worth of agriculture. Most of that is in Trinidad. $300 million, that's half of 1% of the GDP of the country. We're not doing agriculture in Trinidad. Tobago is not a place to do large volume agriculture. We don't have the terrain. You have to do that in South America, in Suriname and Guyana and Belize and so on. So we have to do agriculture purely for food safety and food security. And then you concentrate on the education and the ICT and the creative industries to build an economy. That requires major investment in infrastructure that we have to hear from the Secretary today. Because if you're going to do that in 30 years, by 2030, for example, then you have to start now. You have to understand your program and start to put the infrastructure in place. If you're going to fix tourism, what are the tourists going to come to see? If you look at the last tourism report, they're complaining they don't have shopping capabilities here. You don't have places for them to shop in, and you don't have sites for them to visit. You're going to have to put those infrastructure in place. So that's what the budget has to be talking about if you're serious about fixing Tobago. And the sea bridge and the air bridge, the THA needs to take responsibility for that facility. Both sides. You can't hang the development of Tobago on what Trinidad wants to do and what the government in Trinidad wants to do. You have to put up your own program to ensure that we could move our critical minimum population that we want to move between Tobago and Trinidad to ensure trade is taking place. And that's a THA responsibility. And if it's not there in the law, it's there in the ethic of the society, the ethos. People are looking to the THA to solve these problems. And they need to, the budget needs to come up with clear solutions. Either they get the assurance from Trinidad as to what the solution is, or they put up their own program. But this beggar my neighbor thing where you just come and say...
And the other thing is how they're going to get the funding to do it. They're just going to do borrowing. And
the law makes provisions.
The law provides for that, but it's subject to the minister's approval.
Yeah, but you don't get minister. We didn't get the THA by going to Trinidad and begging. We fought politically for it. And that's what this government has failed to do for 16 years. They said in 2000 that I was wrong over the 4.03%. And they have raised no dime more than the 4.03% since 2000. They've made no effort to fight for 6% or 8%. They have to get off their backsides and fight.
Yes, and you have to remember that the people voted for them on the assurance that they can run Tobago's business. And the sea bridge and air bridge, you have to take command of it. Even if you may not be physically responsible or whatever it is, you have to do all your background negotiations so that the realization of an effective air and sea bridge communication between Trinidad and Tobago. And it has to happen now. No excuses. Nobody wants excuses. I talk to everybody, people meeting me and people talking everywhere, and right now people are just totally fed up.
Yeah,
they want to know why they voted for you.
They
can't go to Trinidad, the goods can't come up, they can't take the plane, they're like the maroon here. People are not happy.
But you see, this to me speaks to a larger problem of governance. And we would have had 16 years of the OVO London project with over $35 billion at our disposal. And we are having problem moving Tobagonians between Trinidad and Tobago. You understand, when we would have spent $1 billion on a cultural complex, how much boat we could have bought with that? You see, you have to do what you need to do. You can no longer rely on any external remote partner to take care of your destiny. You have to build your internal capacity to manage the affairs of your people. If you're doing it in partnership with some alliance with Trinidad, then you're better off. But at the end of the day, your development strategy has to be the building of an indigenous capacity, as we talked about food security, to drive the development of the island. We have not had that kind of focused leadership in the island for the last 20 plus years, let me say 20 plus years.
Wasn't it during the Ovie London administration that they bought the two fast ferries?
Yes.
They bought that,
Yes.
And they had the Sonia, I think, at the
Sonia,
time,
yeah.
and all that thing. Things moving nice after a while.
Well,
we must admit that.
No,
somewhere the breakdown took place.
The point
as Bay Ferry leaves. But Jerry, in our negotiation and so on, okay, the central government have bought the 2 boats and so on. Can't we pay for the maintenance? All these kind of things we can put into it as a Tobago House of Assembly.
When you wet lease a vessel or a plane, and you wet lease it, it come with all that package. It come with the crew, the captain, the maintenance, and all that. That is why it's so costly.
The fundamental point I want to make is that in 2009, the then Secretary for Infrastructure, on a visit to Australia, recognized that the technology for the fast ferry was changing and so forth. And they were now building a 112-meter one that have a 500 feet truck lane and all of that. And he was moving with the central government to purchase and order a new one for the route. That would have been delivered by now. The point I'm making, if the central government was not responding to you, and you were recognizing and realizing that kind of massive unspent balance, could it not be a strategic project for the THA to order a boat and bring it and say, well, we buy a boat?
They can still lease one.
You understand what I'm saying?
There's a lease company up there in St. Lucia, Dominica, that they can lease one right now. You understand?
The point I want to make, is there anything in law preventing the THA from buying a boat? Is there anything in law?
If they're buying a boat, if it involves foreign exchange, well, I suppose, except they use their own money from what you call unexpended balances.
But I'm saying, we have recognized over 4 billion
ramifications for that. But if you have to get money from central government, of course had to approve it, the Minister of Finance had to approve it. If you had to get it from the IDB was willing to lend money at some point in time, but you had to get approval from central government.
But
if you have a central government adverse that, you ain't getting it.
But you have to fight for it. Politically, if you judge that it is critical to the development of Tobago, you have to take the lead. It can't be the Truckers Association that's taking the lead.
Exactly.
It has to be the THA. And you have to use politics to lobby in Trinidad to get a proper response. In other words, the THA must ferret out from the government in Trinidad a response on behalf of the people of Tobago. And that is not what we're saying
and
now.
Using
and
the leverage
you need to use the budget.
The leverage that you have. The leverage is your 2 constituency. You have 2 votes, and you use your leverage, plus you are in control of 10 seats in the assembly, and you use that as a leverage, as your political leverage in your negotiation. You have to get very, very serious.
Jerry, what has prevented the THA from designing and constructing a new airport terminal over the last 16 years? Is there anything in law preventing us from doing it?
No, there's nothing wrong. You're just calling the people.
And
come
why?
up with your plan. Come up with the people to design it, and come up with the people or the agency to fund it.
So why the THA could from unspent balances, build an airport terminal and lease it back to the airport authority and make it a revenue?
When you're in a jam, what you'll do, because your unexpended balances, what saved them many times when they don't get releases on time, the unspent balance is what's saving them.
But you couldn't. You don't necessarily. You could spend. You could invest your unspent balances and earn from it. You could leverage it as collateral for a loan. Had we been strategic in the way we're building our capacity, we could have developed a Tobago Investment Bank and capitalized it with the unspent balances. There's so much things we could have done.
This one of the
last year, unspent balances, 2014 was just $131 million.
That's plenty of money.
Unspent balance. All right, Joel, start to talk now. Folks, this brings us to the end of the pre-budget discussion. We're going straight to the Assembly chamber, and we come back to you after with post-budget discussions.
Oath of allegiance of a new member. Announcements by presiding officer. Assembly bills sent back from cabinet. Assembly laws brought back from Parliament. Petitions, papers.
Secretary of Finance and the Economy.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I have the privilege of tabling the following papers in this Honorable House. The Tobago House of Assembly's monthly budget report as at the end of April 2017. The Tobago House of Assembly draft estimates, details of recurrent expenditure for the year 2018. The Tobago House of Assembly's draft estimates, details of development program and unemployment relief programs for the year 2018, and the Tobago House of Assembly draft estimates of revenue for the year 2018.
Presentation of reports from the District Resolution Commission. Presentation of reports from Dispute Resolution Commission, select committees, questions to secretaries, request for leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance, statements by secretaries or assistant secretaries, personal explanations, introduction to bills, motions relating to the business of or sitting of the Assembly and moved by a secretary or assistant secretary, public business, executive council business, motion.
Secretary of Finance and the Economy.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, Honorable Chief Secretary, Secretaries, Assistant Secretaries, Minority Leader and other members of the House, Chief Administrator and other administrators, senior staff of the Tobago House of Assembly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the public gallery, local and international audiences following this presentation on radio, on television, on the World Wide Web, members of the media, good morning. Today, in my capacity as Secretary for Finance and the Economy, I am honored for the opportunity to present to this august body the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Tobago House of Assembly for fiscal 2018. Although this is my 5th budget presentation, I am just as impassioned today as I was during my first budget presentation in 2013. Today's submission represents the combined efforts of many individuals and groups within the Tobago House of Assembly and the wider Tobago community. And before I proceed with the substantive aspects of my presentation, I would like to express my profound gratitude and appreciation to them all. First of all, I wish to express sincere thanks to the people of Tobago for once again, for the 5th consecutive time, entrusting the management of the island to the capable and caring hands of the People's National Movement. In my capacity as Deputy Chief Secretary, I am convinced that the vote in the last Tobago House of Assembly election represented a vote for integrity as well as for stable, committed, and visionary leadership. I assure the citizenry that we do not take our renewed mandate for granted. We remain dedicated to serving with distinction. Permit me also to express my sincere gratitude and profound appreciation to the Chief Secretary, all secretaries and assistant secretaries, and all staff of the various divisions of the Tobago House of Assembly who tirelessly and selflessly contributed to the development of this presentation. Special commendation is extended to the employees of the Division of Finance and the Economy and the Planning Department in the Office of the Chief Secretary. My appreciation extends as well to the non-governmental and community-based organizations, individuals, and participants in the pre-budget consultations and the Tobago House of Assembly's budget surveys. Their numerous suggestions have helped us to identify some of the focal areas in today's budget. I would like to commend as well all who have worked with me as a team for their expertise and tremendous generosity of spirit in helping to craft today's submission. I would also like to thank my wife and family for their steadfast support at all times. And above all, I thank Almighty God for His continued guidance, grace, and inspiration throughout this entire exercise. Deputy Presiding Officer, today's budget statement is being presented at a very interesting time in our nation and indeed our island's development. It comes at a time when the national economy is in the midst of significant challenges, largely due to depressed hydrocarbon prices. It also comes at a time when major economic adjustments are urgently required. Tobago is not insulated from the negative effects of depressed hydrocarbon prices, nor are we protected from the economic adjustments that our country requires. We must all do our part and work together to surmount these challenges. I have every confidence that if we do, our island and ultimately our nation will be better off for it in the long run. Deputy Presiding Officer, at this juncture, Tobago is poised to capitalize on a burgeoning future, a point we have arrived at not without struggle or sacrifice. But this is not new to us, for we have always been a people of resilience and perseverance, ready to confront challenges and ready to overcome them. Tobago has a promising future, made possible by the work of several PNM administrations on the island since 2001. It is also a future that is made possible by the enhanced collaboration and partnership between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government. Building on the foundation of the last 16 years, I can say the island is poised for further development. Critical to this will be the need to foster and unleash the creative energies and innovative potential of our people. And that is why today's budget presentation is aptly themed, Unleashing the Creative and Productive Capacity of Our People. What is required now is for all of us to put our shoulders to the wheel, work assiduously for the further development of the island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this is the only way we can sustain and enhance the standard of living to which we have been accustomed and to achieve greater value for the economic resources we now have. Traditionally, Tobagonians were known to be hardworking, productive, diligent, and patriotic. These are the attributes our island requires at this time. It is noteworthy that some of these qualities were recently demonstrated when the island was affected by Tropical Storm Brett. And I must commend the people of Tobago for their response. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, after 16 years of stellar service from the former Chief Secretary, the management of our island is now entrusted to new leadership. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of all of Tobago to extend a heartfelt thank you to His Excellency Mr. Orville London, High Commissioner to London, for his sterling contribution to this island's development during the last 16 years. His dedication to Tobago and to the country has left an indelible mark on the development of this island and this nation. However, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the management of the island has been entrusted to new leadership, and we must ensure that we give the Honorable Chief Secretary, Mr. Kelvin Charles, all our support. And I have every confidence that we will continue to thrive under his stewardship. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, following precedent, I will begin the substantive part of today's presentation with a review of the international, regional, and national economic developments. This will be followed by a brief examination of the Assembly's financial and budgetary position over the past year. We will then take stock of our overall development efforts, assessing how far we have traveled along the development trajectory, the opportunities we now have, and the challenges we now face. We will then engage in an extensive analysis of the focal areas of the budget for fiscal 2018. This will be followed by the presentation of the budget numbers for fiscal 2018 and the proposed financing mechanisms. Thereafter, we will conclude today's presentation. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is no secret that Trinidad and Tobago is a small, open economy which relies heavily on international trade, and it is therefore prudent for us to take note of developments in the global landscape and assess the implications for us in Tobago. As policymakers in Tobago, we also need to be mindful of the developments regionally and nationally, and I will therefore place this year's budget presentation into context by reviewing the international, regional, and national economic environment. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this latest projection for 2017, the International Monetary Fund revised its original forecast for growth in the global economy upwards from 3.4% to 3.5% and projects growth of 3.6% for 2018. Much of the increase in global growth will come from the emerging economies, most notably China, where there has been a boost in investments after a period of subdued activity. India and other countries in the ASEAN bloc are forecast to grow much faster than the global average. Generally, there's expected to be a revival in manufacturing, and commodity prices are projected to increase further. Higher levels of consumer confidence are also expected to generate greater buoyancy in the equity market. The US economy is projected to grow by 2.3% in 2017 and 2.5% in 2018 as a result of an anticipated boost in business and consumer spending associated with its expansionary monetary stance. The America First policy of the new Trump administration is expected to boost domestic economic activity while preserving American jobs. Growth in the euro area for 2017 is projected at 1.7%, falling marginally to 1.6% in 2018, mainly as a result of positive fiscal spillovers from anticipated growth in the US economy. However, this is moderated somewhat by the uncertainty arising from the Brexit negotiations, as well as elections of new governments in several member countries. The UK and Germany are both projected to grow by 1.5% in 2018. In spite of the prospect for higher growth, one area of concern will be the reemergence of inward-looking policies in the United States and Europe, which could result in greater levels of protectionism and restrictions on trade in goods and investment flows. This could dampen the spread of any stimulus for growth. And for Trinidad and Tobago, this may well mean possible reductions in export revenue as markets are adversely affected, as well as lower access to debt capital and reduced inflows of foreign direct investment. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, at the regional level, economic activity in Latin America and the Caribbean is constrained by weak demand and low commodity prices, but is expected to grow modestly in 2017. Real GDP in this region is projected to grow by 1.6% in 2017. Challenges in Venezuela, Argentina, and Brazil are likely to predominate and become largely responsible for the subdued economic outlook. For the Caribbean region, growth in tourism-dependent economies is projected to increase. Additionally, Guyana will continue its strong growth due to increased gold production, and this positive outlook is likely to prevail with the new prospects for petroleum production in the future. Jamaica has also been able to grow with the revival of production in the agricultural sector, supported by tourism and business process outsourcing sectors. The historical tie between the United Kingdom and the Caribbean makes the region vulnerable to risks related to the UK's withdrawal from the European Union. Economic flows from tourism and remittances are likely to be affected, and as such, this development must be closely monitored. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, at the national level, since my last budget presentation to this House, the price of crude oil has fluctuated primarily as a result of the production cuts by OPEC and some non-OPEC countries, notably Russia. The average West Texas intermediate price for crude oil over the last 3 months was just below US $50 per barrel. In respect of natural gas, the Henry Hub price is averaging around US $3 per MMBTU. The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, in its economic bulletin for 2017, reported a decline in the petroleum sector for the second half of 2016 by 7.7%, while natural gas production fell by 15.6% over the same period. However, gas production is expected to increase later this year as production commences from the Juniper platform. The non-energy sector experienced mixed fortunes, with manufacturing declining by 4.3%, while financial services and agriculture increased by 0.8% and 0.4% respectively in the third quarter of 2016. Lower energy, lower prices, and lower domestic energy production have weakened our external accounts somewhat. The country's gross official reserves, as at the end of April 2017, was US $9.1 billion, representing about 10 months of import cover. Moreover, citing rising debt ratios, declining oil and gas production, and fiscal consolidation challenges, Moody's downgraded Trinidad and Tobago from Baa3 to Ba1. This followed a similar position taken by Standard & Poor's to adjust Trinidad and Tobago's rating to BBB+ from A- with a stable outlook. The downgrade by both agencies means that the cost of borrowing is now likely to be higher. The challenges of economic growth have also been felt within our labor market. The Central Statistical Office recorded an unemployment rate of 4.1% in the second quarter of 2016, compared with 3.2% in the previous year. Headline inflation was 3.1% in December 2016, while core inflation averaged 2.3%. The excess demand pressures in the foreign exchange market have not abated, and there has been a moderate depreciation of 2.1% in the TT US dollar exchange rate since last year. The rate currently stands at about TT $6.77 per US dollar. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, having reviewed the international, regional, and national context in which the budgetary proposals are predicated, let me now turn to recent budgetary and financial developments in Tobago for fiscal 2017. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, in the financial year ended 30th September 2016, the Tobago House of Assembly received a total of $2,302,717,132 from the Ministry of Finance and the Economy. The sum of $236,056,042 was collected as tax and non-tax revenue in Tobago on behalf of the Consolidated Fund and used to offset the total appropriation, bringing the total parliamentary appropriation to $2,538,773,174, approximately 5% less than in fiscal 2015. Revenues generated independently by the Tobago House of Assembly total $45,972,757, an increase of 66.5% over the amount for fiscal 2015. For fiscal 2016, recurrent and development program expenditure by the Tobago House of Assembly amounted to $2,467,869,118. Of this sum, recurrent expenditure amounted to $1,952,253,861, while development program expenditure amounted to $501,422,318. Overall, the expenditure of the Tobago House of Assembly for fiscal 2016 was approximately 8% less than in fiscal 2015. It is important to note that of the recurrent expenditure incurred in fiscal 2016, the Tobago House of Assembly managed to honor its commitment to workers of the Tobago Regional Health Authority, amounting to $70,164,829 as the first tranche of settling payments of arrears for the period 2011 to 2013. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, under the contingencies expenditure account, unspent balances for the year ended 30th September 2015 amounted to $100,975,230. This was used in fiscal 2016 to finance capital expenditure and other urgent projects and programs in keeping with our mandate to improve the standard of living of all Tobagonians. Some of the major projects and programs undertaken include the Unemployment Relief Program, $47.1 million, the Community-Based Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, CPEP, $24 million, the Adventure Microenterprise Project, $7 million, and the Tobago House of Assembly's Financial Assistance Program, administered by the Department of Advanced Training and Advisory Services, DATAS, $5 million. For fiscal 2017, the total budgetary allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly amounted to $2,334 million, of which $2,045 million was allocated for recurrent expenditure, and $289 million was allocated for development program expenditure. The overall budgetary allocation to the Assembly for fiscal 2017 was $415 million, or 15% lower than the allocation to the Assembly in fiscal 2016. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, I now turn to the Assembly's financial reporting systems. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we continue to enhance and upgrade our accounting systems across all divisions to reduce the processing time for the payments not only of employees but also of our suppliers. At present, all our monthly paid employees, along with 85% of all daily rated employees, have been migrated to the Automated Clearinghouse or ACH system, resulting in more timely payments. The third phase of this initiative is scheduled to commence in August of this year with the onboarding of our suppliers. This will result in the reduction in the settlement time for the payment of goods and services as we strive to achieve international benchmarks. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the ACH rollout is a part of a larger initiative of the Division of Finance and the Economy to modernize the Assembly's financial architecture. It is expected that there will be considerable reform of the Assembly's financial reporting framework and in the management of public finances in the next financial year, as a more expansive program is being explored with the Inter-American Development Bank to address the larger public financial management framework. This will include budget process reengineering for budget preparation and execution, and the migration to the accrual accounting system as per the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, or IPSAS. Moreover, this program supports the advancement of results-based management by providing measurable indicators in real time. The preliminary work for this has already begun, and a full rollout is expected during the upcoming fiscal year, with this exercise scheduled to be completed by the end of fiscal 2018. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this administration is committed to transparency and accountability in the conduct of the affairs of the people. We remain resolute in our efforts to modernize the Assembly's financial reporting framework, cognizant that this is a long-term effort requiring extensive resources and expertise. The Deputy Presiding Officer, as this administration under new leadership looks towards the future and seeks to advance Tobago's development, we must do so with a clear understanding of our current state, of our development, the strides we have made, the challenges we overcame, and those that now confront us, as well as the opportunities that currently abound and will emerge in the future. Although development can be measured in various ways, by any yardstick, any fair-minded person looking at Tobago's development over the last 16 years or so will undoubtedly conclude that this island has done exceedingly well. All of us as Tobagonians should be justifiably proud of what we have been able to achieve together as a people. Please allow me to elaborate on the strides that we have made as it relates to the various dimensions of development, starting with the economic dimension. Madam Presiding Officer, Tobago's gross domestic product, an indicator of the economic health of the island, more than doubled between 2001 and 2016. For the period 2011 to 2016, the island's GDP grew from $1.66 billion at an average annual growth rate of approximately 3% to $1.86 billion. In this regard, the island can now boast of having one of the lowest unemployment levels in the English-speaking Caribbean. The latest data available from the CSO suggests that the rate of unemployment in Tobago, as at the end of the third quarter of 2016, was down from about 13% in 2001 to about 3.3%, which economists would consider to be full employment. The number of persons with jobs in Tobago increased by 10,300 from 21,700 in 2001 to 32,000 as at the end of the third quarter of 2016. Likewise, the latest data available from the central bank now suggests that both headline and food price inflation in Tobago are now down to single-digit levels from double digits a decade earlier. As of the end of February 2017, Tobago recorded headline and food price inflation of 3% and 5% respectively. These rates compare very favorably with annual average rates of 4% and 9% recorded respectively for headline and food price inflation for the island in 2004. And this is the earliest year for which we have inflation data on Tobago. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I must reiterate that our economic expansion was not accidental. This economic expansion occurred because of the significant investment by this PNM-led administration over the last 16 years to create an enabling environment for the advancement and prosperity for all Tobagonians and citizens resident on the island, as well as our objective to expand and develop a robust private sector and encourage entrepreneurial activity. Through the Enterprise Assistance Loan and Grant Programs of the Business Development Unit, Tobagonians have been given approximately $44 million in financial assistance along with technical support to start, operate, or expand their businesses. The unit also provides support to existing and potential entrepreneurs by funding not only their participation, but also by showcasing and distributing their products in several national, regional, and international trade shows and investment conventions, including the annual Trade and Investment Convention, TIC, in Trinidad, the Caribbean and Central American Action Conference, the Caribbean Fashion Week in Jamaica, the Summer Fancy Food Show in New York, the Toronto Harbourfront Festival in Canada, the Commonwealth Countries League Fair in London, and the annual Havana Trade Fair in Cuba. These opportunities were crafted with the intention of facilitating greater export penetration of Tobago's products in regional and extra-regional markets. Beyond the loan and grant programs, support is provided to encourage entrepreneurship in the island through the work of the Tobago Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited and our ongoing efforts at the work of the Cove Eco Industrial and Business Park. The Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited currently holds a portfolio investment of $4 million in 3 companies within the light manufacturing and the agricultural sectors. As it relates to the Cove Eco Industrial and Business Park, factory space is allocated to entrepreneurs to establish or expand their businesses, and Cove is currently reviewing its rates and incentive programs with a view towards increasing the number of tenants in the park. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the park currently contains 2 factory shells for larger businesses and 2 multi-producer units for smaller businesses, and approximately 86 persons are currently employed from tenant operations. Madam Presiding Officer, turning to the social dimension of development, I must state that as an island, we have made significant strides. In this regard, let us first look at education, where we have invested significantly at all levels. And today, according to data from the CSO, the proportion of the Tobago labor force with tertiary education is now up from 5% in 2001 to 20% as at the end of the 3rd quarter 2016. Undoubtedly, the Assembly's investment in tertiary education is beginning to bear fruit. On an annual basis, through the Financial Assistance Program administered by the Department of Advanced Training and Advisory Services DATAS in the Office of the Chief Secretary, the Assembly invests approximately $8 million to support Tobago students pursuing tertiary education. Also, students in Tobago now have improved access to tertiary education on the island through institutions such as the University of Trinidad and Tobago, the University of the West Indies Tobago Open Campus, Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, the College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago, COSTAT, Roytech, the Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business, the University of the Southern Caribbean, and the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute. Our educational infrastructure at the primary and secondary levels in Tobago also compares favorably with the region. With the construction of secondary schools at Goodwood, Speyside, and Mason Hall, and financial support to the Pentecostal Light and Life Foundation High School, there has been a significant increase in the number of available spaces for students sitting the SEA examination. What this means is that all of our SEA students have a guaranteed secondary school place. Additionally, we have a state-of-the-art library facility in Scarborough, which is second to none in the Caribbean region. The Scarborough Public Library is undoubtedly one of the most modern, technologically equipped, and efficient libraries operating in the region. Users can boast of its automated book return, laptop kiosks, and computer training for the elderly. Focusing on health and our safety and our social safety net support since Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, since the completion of the Scarborough Hospital, we have significantly expanded the range of health services available to our residents with the introduction of a number of new services, inclusive of corneal transport, corneal transplant, hemodialysis, speech therapy, and cardiology. Also, most of our communities throughout the island are now served by a healthcare facility. The ratio of healthcare facilities to population in Tobago compares very favorably to and exceeds that in neighboring countries. Included among the new health facilities constructed over the last 16 years are the Scarborough, Charlottesville, and Canaan health centers. Additionally, Madam Presiding Officer, we now adequately provide for most of our vulnerable groups in society through a wide range of social safety net programs, including the Program for the Realization of Economic Achievement REACH, the Golden Apple Adolescent Partnership Program, the Child and Family Development Program, the Program for Adolescent Mothers, the Alcohol and Drug Prevention Program, and the various programs of the Women's Economic and Technological Empowerment Center and the Tobago Rehabilitation and Empowerment Center. In respect of housing, over the last 16 years, and notwithstanding our budgetary constraints, the Assembly has invested significantly in making housing opportunities available to Tobagonians through the purchase of a number of large estates, including Corlan, Friendship, and Shervan. In addition, we now provide financial support to enable Tobagonians to improve their homes through numerous programs, inclusive of the Home Improvement Grant Program, the Home Improvement Subsidy, and the Home Completion Program. The Deputy Presiding Officer, we now turn our attention to the physical dimensions of development. As it relates to roads, we have significantly upgraded and expanded our road network on the island, so much so that our road network in Tobago also compares favorably with those of our Caribbean neighbors. On an annual basis, the Assembly spends approximately $48 million to upgrade primary and secondary roads on the island. Some of the major roads constructed over the tenure of this PNM administration include the Lansome-Charlottesville Link Road, the Spring Garden Trace, and the Mason Hall-Lakoto Road. We have also invested significantly in building our community and our recreational infrastructure. As a result, many of our communities in Tobago have now been provided with community centers, multi-purpose facilities, and recreational areas, as well as several well-lit playing fields. Many of these communities have also been provided with other modern facilities, such as the 16 IT literacy.
I find it necessary to remind members of Standing Order 49, Part B. A member present in the Assembly during the debate, and Part B says, shall maintain silence while another member is speaking and shall not interrupt except in accordance with these standing orders. Members are so reminded. Continue.
Thank you for your protection, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, however we define development, Tobago has come a long way since our PNM administration took office in 2001. Undoubtedly, the level of development we were able to achieve did not come without its challenges. Please permit me to elaborate on three critical ones. The first is a perennial shortfall in funding from the central government to finance our development program. Historically, the Assembly's development program has been underfunded, and this has significantly compromised the rate and scale of implementation of our development program activities. The second challenge we face in advancing Tobago's development is with respect to the current legislative and constitutional arrangements between the Assembly and the central government. There are significant constraints, for instance, the lack of authority and flexibility to engage in certain financial transactions and to source funding to facilitate our developmental agenda based on our own financial standing. Under the existing legislative arrangements, Tobago's present and potential contributions to the national purse are not clearly defined. These all serve to impede and frustrate Tobago's development, and this is why the issue of greater autonomy for Tobago is paramount to advancing Tobago's development. The third challenge relates to inefficiencies in the inter-island air and sea bridge. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we know that residents as well as the Tobago business community have been adversely affected by the recent interruptions on the sea bridge. We view the situation as unfortunate and untenable, and we acknowledge it has continued for far too long. The Assembly has been in close and constant discussions with the Minister of Works, and Transport, and the Board of the Port Authority, and I would like to inform this Honourable House that a solution to the current situation is imminent. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, notwithstanding these challenges, I have every confidence that as a people, we can work together to surmount these challenges. Each of us has a responsibility to contribute to the development of Tobago. And this is not solely the responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly. We are at a critical juncture in our development, and what is required is for all of us to put our creative minds to work and be determined to resolve the challenges which now confront us. We cannot default to theatrics and attempt to score cheap political points on important issues regarding our development. Indeed, it will be a travesty if we do not grasp with both hands the opportunity to be an integral part of our island's progress. I believe our children and our children's children will never forgive us. We must therefore harness our creative energies and fully exploit our productive capacity as we strive to further develop our blessed island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the budget of the Assembly for fiscal 2018 will focus on several broad thematic areas. And this will ensure that the island's development trajectory continues in a balanced and strategic manner. The budget numbers, which I will present later on, were largely influenced by several sources of information, including the budgetary submissions of the various divisions, the manifesto of the People's National Movement in the last Tobago House of Assembly elections, the Tobago House of Assembly's pre-budget survey for 2017, and the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan for Tobago, CDP 2.0. Accordingly, the budgetary proposals for fiscal 2018 expand on the following thematic areas: building economic resilience, fostering innovation and creativity, supporting our tourism industry, revitalizing our agricultural sector, developing our human capital, providing housing opportunities, enhancing healthcare delivery, fostering and stimulating rural development, the holistic development of young people, preserving our pristine natural environment, and empowering and building communities. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I will now elaborate on each of these in turn, starting with building economic resilience. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is widely accepted that Tobago's economy, similar to the national economy, is dependent on a few economic sectors. The most recent data available from the Survey of Business Establishments conducted by the Division of Finance and the Economy suggests that the services sector is still by and large the most dominant sector in the Tobago economy, amounting for approximately 90% of the island's GDP. It is well established that the services sector is highly vulnerable to the vagaries of the international economic environment, as we saw during the global financial crisis. As such, for Tobago as an island to develop economic resilience on any sustainable basis, economic diversification is imperative. But Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, for diversification to occur, there needs to be meaningful collaboration and partnerships amongst the private sector, workers, and the state. The private sector needs to identify new products and services that have marketable value on a sustainable basis. Workers need to ensure they increase their productivity levels and produce goods and services efficiently. And the state is required to create the enabling environment to allow for the development of these products and services that foster sustained economic prosperity. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, at the core of our strategy for diversification and the development of economic resilience are activities at the Business Development Unit in the Division of Community Development and the Sector Development Unit in the Division of Finance and the Economy, and our work at the Cove Eco Industrial and Business Park. To illustrate, over the next fiscal year, the Business Development Unit will seek to expand the current limit of its loans and grant from $250,000 to $500,000 and from $25,000 to $50,000 respectively. In addition, we propose to streamline BDU's processes to reduce the processing time of loan and grant applications. Also, through a special outreach initiative of the BDU, they propose to make their services more accessible to persons in the community, and this will expand, they will expand on as well their training programs in business readiness to prospective and existing business persons. Further, over the next fiscal year, the Strategic Sector Development Unit in the Division of Finance and the Economy will conduct research to assess the export readiness of targeted sectors in Tobago, inclusive of garment manufacturing, agro-processing, art and craft, and woodworking. Additionally, the unit will provide training to allow entrepreneurs to capitalize on existing domestic and export opportunities. Let me say, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, that we are heartened by the prospects for a number of sectors, especially agro-processing and beekeeping. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the Cove Eco Industrial and Business Park is in the process of finalizing a new strategic plan that will guide the company's approach to business development over the next 5 years. The company has several strategic initiatives aimed at fostering enterprise development in Tobago. These include, but are not limited to, the construction of additional factory space to allow entrepreneurs to establish or expand their business operations. Construction work on a third factory shell should be fully mobilized by the start of 2018, and the fourth factory shell will commence construction before the end of the third quarter in fiscal 2018. Additionally, the construction of a Tier 3 data center at the Cove Park, and this is a joint venture between TSTT and EDCOT. An agreement is expected to be signed shortly. Following the success of a pilot program, EDCOT, in collaboration with Anime Caribe, will commence the rollout of a comprehensive animation program in Tobago. This will make it possible for Tobagonians to seize existing business opportunities in the field of animation. And finally, a feasibility study for the construction of a commercial cargo port facility in Tobago is scheduled to be completed in the last quarter of 2017. It is envisioned that the construction of port facilities in close proximity to Cove will serve as an incentive to attract new businesses to the industrial park and the island, and also facilitate the importation of raw materials and the export of finished goods. The Deputy Presiding Officer, beyond our work at the Business Development Unit and the Strategic Sector Development Unit and Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park, we will continue our collaboration with the Tobago private sector as we are mindful of our current position as a key facilitator of economic activity on the island and the urgent need to expand and develop a more resilient private sector. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we continue to work with the Chamber and other stakeholders in the business community, and we will continue this consultative engagement towards finding workable solutions to some of the challenges in the business community. We will also continue our efforts to provide the necessary support and enabling environment for the growth and development of SMEs and the wider business community. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, let us turn our attention to fostering innovation and creativity. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, as a society, we need to be more creative and innovative. Therefore, we must increase our investment in research and development. In a global environment that is dynamic, our businesses will only develop and maintain competitive advantages in the various industries in which they operate if they engage in continuous innovation. That is, our businesses must continually strive to reinvent themselves and adopt a Kaizen approach to doing business. Research has shown that businesses that engage in innovation to differentiate and create new products and services outperform their competitors. We must not believe that we are too small to engage in meaningful innovation. In this regard, we must rigorously examine and refine our business processes and find new, more efficient and innovative ways of doing business to enable us to be prudent with reduced financial resources. This administration, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, will continue to create the necessary ecosystem to enable innovation to occur in any meaningful way. In this regard, our education system at all levels will be reoriented to create more critical thinkers and innovators with a focus on more creative approaches to problem solving. In addition, because innovations are not always easy to monetize, we will provide both technical and financial support to allow individuals and firms to effectively commercialize their inventions. We will provide the necessary support for innovators to have ready access to agencies such as the Bureau of Standards and CARIRI to facilitate product and quality assurance testing. We also propose to engage in meaningful collaboration and partnerships with the private sector and with tertiary institutions to encourage and facilitate innovation. One initiative that is proposed to stimulate creativity and innovation among the island's young adults is an annual Youth Research and Innovation Business Competition. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, also critical to our trust to stimulate innovation over the next fiscal year will be our work at the Tobago Information Technology Limited, or TITL. I'm pleased to announce that in March of this year, construction commenced on TITL's new Innovation Center. Work on the center is expected to be completed by September of this year at a total cost of $6 million. This will allow for an expansion of the ICT training portfolio, international training, certification and testing, the provision of performance improvement and operational efficiency consulting services for businesses seeking integrated functional solutions, the shared space for the development of prototypes and applications with the aim of promoting a technology-driven, collaborative community that fosters creativity and productivity. Deputy Presiding Officer, in a previous budget statement in this Honorable House, I outlined the need for Tobago to advance our evolution to a knowledge-based economy, leveraging ICT to advance socio-economic development. Today, I'm pleased to announce that the Division of Finance and the Economy, through the Tobago Information Technology Limited, has concluded a series of very productive consultations with leading global ICT provider Huawei Technologies that will not only support the aforementioned Innovation Center, but will also introduce a comprehensive training program that will provide at least 500 skilled jobs within the next 3 to 5 years in fields such as networking, data storage, and unified communications, as well as other ICT professions. In addition to this, we plan to introduce custom ICT platforms for the agricultural sector to enhance the nascent produce exchange currently operating through the Tobago Agricultural Society, and also for the medium and small properties within the tourism sector to assist with their e-commerce marketing challenges, as well as registration and data collection efforts. Further consultation with these stakeholders will be scheduled over the next 3 months to ensure that the final product effectively addresses their needs. I would like to reiterate that these initiatives are part of a larger strategy to develop the island's technological architecture, which will include streamlining government services through a common platform, facilitating increased data-driven decision-making and policy formulation, and as a result, a more efficient and effective planning and a greater ease of doing business in Tobago. This 3-year plan will result in smart institutions, smart communities, and Tobago becoming an intelligent island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I now turn my attention to the tourism sector. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, notwithstanding our ongoing efforts to diversify the Tobago economy over the short to medium term, this administration recognizes that the tourism sector will continue to be a major driver of economic activity on the island. We are also aware that the tourism industry is dynamic and highly susceptible to the vagaries of the international economic environment. Madam Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, particularly since the occurrence of the global financial crisis in 2008-2009, the industry on the island has had its fair share of challenges, which this administration remains committed to addressing. In this regard, earlier this year, in an effort to achieve greater efficiency and effectiveness in the execution of tourism policy on the island, the Executive Council approved the establishment of a Tobago Tourism Agency. Some of its primary functions include collaborating with tourism stakeholders in the development of Tobago as a premier destination in the Southern Caribbean, designing and implementing suitable and effective marketing strategies for the promotion of the island's tourism product, conducting several relevant and timely research to guide policy formulation in the tourism sector, and the registration and classification of tourism accommodations in accordance with established international benchmarks. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is envisioned that this new entity will increase operational efficiency and enhance the execution of tourism policy on the island. A board of directors for this agency will soon be appointed and will be chaired by an eminently qualified Tobagonian lecturer in the Tourism Management Program at the UWI Keyville campus. Additionally, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, as festivals tourism remain a vital component of our island's tourism product, the Executive Council approved the establishment of a task force headed by UWI lecturer Dr. Keith Nurse, an expert in the area of cultural economics. The primary responsibility of this task force is to assess the effectiveness, relevance, and viability of the Tobago Jazz Festival and other tourism-related festivals, and to make recommendations for their growth, development, and sustainability. The task force is expected to report in 3 months, and this report will guide the Assembly's approach to funding festivals in the next fiscal year and beyond. The Deputy Presiding Officer, there are several other strategic initiatives planned by the Assembly to assist in revitalizing the tourism sector on the island. Over the next fiscal year, these initiatives include the strengthening of the institutional capacity of the research department at the tourism division to conduct relevant research and provide timely and reliable data and statistics to guide policy formulation in the tourism sector on the island. Collaboration with Caribbean Airlines Limited to reduce the gap between demand and supply for seats on the domestic air bridge, especially at peak periods. The introduction of new product offerings and experiences, such as canopy tours at the Main Ridge Forest Reserve, the Scarborough Heritage Trail project, and the further development of Fort King George. Additionally, encouraging and promoting tourism, community-based tourism throughout Tobago, the enhancement of the marketing program under the Tourism Rolling Plan at an estimated cost of $100 million, assistance to small properties in the tourism industry at a cost of $15 million, the provision of relevant and quality training through the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute to prepare Tobagonians to effectively exploit all existing and emerging jobs in the tourism industry on the island and to improve the quality of service delivery to visitors and locals alike. Additionally, the establishment of greater synergies and linkages between the tourism industry and our cultural industry, thereby effectively monetizing our culture, and the revision of our tourism investment strategy with a view towards attracting recognized brands, thereby reducing the room stock gap on the island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we propose to adopt a more proactive approach as we prepare our tourism and related sectors to fully exploit all the potential benefits and opportunities that a Sandals resort can offer Tobago. The Sandals project could undoubtedly be a game changer for Tobago. Mr. Presiding Officer, let me repeat that again to the Deputy Presiding Officer. The Sandals project could undoubtedly be a game changer for Tobago. This project will assist in addressing 3 critical problems affecting our tourism sector: airlift, a shortage of high-quality rooms, and the marketing of Destination Tobago. So, Presiding Officer, Deputy, I seek your protection. This project will assist in addressing 3 critical problems affecting our tourism sector: airlift, a shortage of high-quality rooms, and the marketing of Destination Tobago. As a result, the Assembly will continue to work with our partners in central government to ensure that Tobago derives optimum benefit from this project, while giving due consideration to all the environmental, economic, and social concerns. What is therefore required is that each Tobagonian must be prepared to take advantage of all the prospects available through the Sandals arrangement. Our training programs, particularly at the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute, will be adjusted to revive our tradition of service excellence and guide our young people to some of the opportunities of this project. Our farmers and fisher folk must begin to prepare and align themselves in such a way that they also will maximize these opportunities. The Deputy Presiding Officer, this administration will continue to do our part in preparing Tobago and Tobagonians to maximize these opportunities. So, Presiding Officer, so Deputy Presiding Officer, I now turn my attention to the agricultural sector. This administration is mindful of the role the agricultural sector can play in generating economic activity, job creation, reducing food price inflation, as well as reducing our dependence on external sources for basic food items and improving food security. Earlier this year, the Executive Council approved the establishment of an agricultural revitalization team that will work with the Secretary of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries to formulate an agricultural revitalization plan to position the agricultural sector as a major driver of sustained economic activity. This plan will guide public and private sector efforts in addressing the major developmental challenges facing the sector. Over the next fiscal year, the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries proposes several initiatives to reposition agriculture as a key driver of economic growth on the island. One of the major initiatives proposed by the division is the development of an agro park at the Friendship Estate at an estimated cost of $10 million. It is proposed that this park will serve as a model farm, allowing for intensive commercial production of select vegetables and root crops, as well as introduction of modern agricultural practices and appropriate innovative technologies. It is envisioned that the new agro-park will employ modern technology to enable the benefits associated with economies of scale to be fully exploited. The park will also serve as a center for research and training and capacity building for farmers, and also assist farmers in modernizing their farming practices and facilitate greater private sector involvement in the agricultural sector. Another major initiative of the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries in the upcoming fiscal year is a program of cocoa rehabilitation. We are cognizant of the fact that fine-flavored cocoa is in high demand and fetches premium prices on the international market. We are also mindful of the historical importance of cocoa to the Tobago economy. And therefore, the division proposes to utilize agricultural lands to develop an effective value chain in cocoa and chocolate production. In this regard, the division will collaborate with the UWI Cocoa Research Center to leverage their technical expertise in areas of research and product development. The Deputy Presiding Officer, to increase food production on the island, we will expand and intensify the Agricultural Access Routes program. This will open up more lands for agriculture and other developments. Concerted efforts will be made to link agriculture with the school feeding program, and seed funding will be provided to encourage more persons to be involved in agriculture. In addition to these initiatives, Madam Presiding Officer, capacity enhancement training and business readiness programs will be introduced in the next fiscal year to prepare farmers and agro-processors for the opportunities that will emerge from investment in the tourism sector with the construction of the Sandals Resort and other international brands. Madam Deputy Presiding Officer, other initiatives of the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries to boost agricultural production on the island over the next fiscal year include encouraging and facilitating greater synergies between the agricultural sector and other sectors of the economy, such as tourism and the health sector, enhancing the capacity of the propagation and demonstration stations and the tissue culture facility to increase the availability of planting materials to the public. Targeted crops include citrus and other tree crops, plantains, bananas, and dashi. Additionally, expanding the Hope Farm Genetics Center, which will focus on artificial insemination and on conserving and improving the genetic resources of our livestock. Also facilitating youth involvement in agriculture through improved access to capacity enhancement training and a revision of the Youth Apprenticeship Program in Agriculture, or YAPA. And finally, ensuring that small family farmers are exposed to modern agricultural practices and technologies such as hydroponics and aquaponics. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I now turn to human capital development, focusing on education. Human capital development is central to the developmental strategy of this administration. In this regard, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the Division of Education is currently in the process of developing strategies to improve the quality of education at all levels in Tobago. We are committed to a strategic, progressive developmental plan that begins with the establishment of a dynamic early childhood care and education unit. This unit will be tasked with providing broad-based learning and ensuring a nurturing and stimulating environment at this level. During the next fiscal year, the Division of Education, in collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank, IADB, will begin construction on 5 early childhood centers in Roxborough, Corland, Adventia, Bon Accord, and Belgarden. During the construction phase, there will be extensive training for parents, teachers, and other stakeholders to ensure a seamless transition into these new schools. Greater focus will also be placed on improving the infrastructure at primary schools throughout the island. In this regard, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm pleased to announce that the Scarborough ROC School is scheduled for completion by September 2018. The project manager has given us the assurance that construction is proceeding within time and within budget. In addition, improvement works and upgrades are proposed for primary schools in urgent need of repairs. The Deputy Presiding Officer, this administration is determined to cater extensively to the requirements of students with special needs. Our 2 special needs schools, the Tobago School for the Deaf, Speech and Language Impaired, and the Happy Haven School will be upgraded and expanded to provide easier accessibility and comfort to students with disabilities. It is our intention to build a school for the deaf at Signal Hill with the support from the Caribbean Development Bank. The Deputy Presiding Officer, this administration plans to expand the availability of tertiary education on the island. We will continue to provide financial assistance to Tobagonians to pursue tertiary level studies through the Financial Assistance Program administered by the Department of Advanced Training and Advisory Services DATAS in the Office of the Chief Secretary at an estimated cost of $8 million. Our programs at the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute will be a part of a broader strategy of expanding tertiary education on the island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, please permit me now to turn to housing. We are aware that the acquisition of a home may be the largest single investment an individual may make in his or her lifetime. We also know that with the current price of real estate in Tobago, not all Tobagonians can afford to purchase a home on the private market or to construct a new home. Therefore, to address this market failure, intervention by the Tobago House of Assembly is necessary. Although the PNM administration in Tobago has invested significantly in the provision of housing for Tobagonians in the past, our housing program continues to be stymied by funding constraints. As a result, there is a significant gap between the supply and demand for public housing. At present, there are over 7,500 applicants listed on the Assembly's database. In an attempt to address this, we continue to collaborate with the private sector in devising novel arrangements for the provision of affordable housing. Madam Presiding Officer, sorry, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, my apologies. Let me slow down a little bit. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we are reviewing potential public-private partnership proposals, and we will continue to work with our multilateral partners and other stakeholders to develop innovative solutions to our housing needs in Tobago. In addition, the Division of Settlements will continue to assist Tobagonians who own lands and are seeking to build homes through the Beneficiary Owned Land Program and the Home Completion Program. The division will also continue to support existing homeowners through the Home Improvement Grant and the Home Construction Subsidy. Additionally, the Division of Settlements will collaborate with the Division of Community Development and Labor in making application forms available at the community centers where persons can apply for the various home improvement grants in a hassle-free manner. The Deputy Presiding Officer, related to the issue of housing is the long-standing issue of land titles in Tobago. It is no secret that many Tobagonians are in possession of lands without proper title. This has affected their ability to leverage the equity in their real estate in order to gain access to financing from lending institutions. When the last PNM central government demitted office in 2010, bills had been prepared and were ready to be taken to Parliament to address the issues of land titles in Tobago. Excuse me. Under the UNC-led administration, nothing significant was done to advance this issue. Our commitment to the people of Tobago is to work with the PNM-led central government as a matter of urgency to ensure successful passage of the legislation to settle this issue. In this regard, I'm pleased to announce that this PNM-led central government has completed and tabled a draft bill that is on the order paper for debate in Parliament. Turning to the issue of healthcare delivery, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we are cognizant of the fact that there is a relationship between the quality of healthcare we as citizens enjoy and our overall standard of living and quality of life. We also understand that there's a relationship between the status of our health and the overall level of productivity of our society. As an assembly, we have invested significantly over the last 16 years to improve our health infrastructure on the island, so much so that our primary and secondary healthcare facilities compare very favorably to international benchmarks. Building on our relatively sound health infrastructure, what is now required is that we continue to improve and expand the quality of our health services. We recognize as well that there is a growing problem of non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and hypertension, not only in Tobago, but nationally. We also know that non-communicable diseases share common risk factors such as unhealthy diets, tobacco and alcohol use, obesity, and physical inactivity. As an administration, we are therefore intensifying ongoing efforts to reduce the incidence of these diseases in Tobago. The Deputy Presiding Officer, additionally, we are mindful of the growing prevalence of cancer among Tobagonians, and we are also mindful that cancer is one of the leading causes of death on the island. To continue the fight against cancer on the island, only recently, the Executive Council approved the establishment of a palliative care facility that will provide specialized medical care for victims of cancer and other serious illnesses. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, to ensure persons in the community have greater access to our health centers and to ensure the effective decentralization of health services to the communities, we will redouble our efforts and implement extended opening hours of health care centers across the island. The Deputy Presiding Officer, we will now examine our efforts to stimulate development on the island. As an administration, we recognize for development to be sustainable, it must take place in a holistic and balanced manner. We also recognize that development in northern and eastern areas of Tobago has not kept pace with the rest of the island, and this is something we propose to address in a more strategic manner. In this regard, we propose to establish a unit in the Office of the Chief Secretary with primary responsibility to develop and implement an integrated development action plan to promote a more coordinated and sustainable approach to the development in these areas. This action plan is predicated on 5 thematic pillars: supporting sustainable communities, supporting enterprise and development, maximizing ecotourism, fostering culture and creativity, and improving infrastructure and connectivity. Its key objectives include, but are not limited to, the creation of new jobs in the eastern and northern areas of Tobago by supporting the establishment of cottage-type industries and other light manufacturing industries, the provision of enhanced support to stimulate the agricultural, fishing, and tourism sectors, the decentralization of government services, the enhancement of the public transport system, the implementation of targeted disaster mitigation and management plans, giving due consideration to the unique challenges in these areas, and the provision of improved telecommunication and ICT coverage. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we now turn our efforts to ensure the holistic development of our young adults. This administration understands that Tobago's young adults are our greatest assets. We also understand that sustainable development requires young people to play a critical role in our development. We are therefore committed to improving their lives by providing support for their overall development and providing opportunities to prepare them for their role in developing Tobago. Through the recently created Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, there are a number of initiatives all geared towards the holistic development of Tobago's young adults. This division has as its mandate the empowerment of young adults through programs that will allow them to become a part of the island's development process. Over the next few years, driven by its strategic plan, themed Youth Empowerment Strategy of Tobago, the division will promote the empowerment of young people in Tobago by facilitating their active participation in Tobago's developmental agenda, supporting their involvement in entrepreneurial activities, building the capacity of youth development organizations on the island, to design, implement, manage, and monitor youth development programs, by providing financial, technical, and other assistance to youth organizations in the implementation of their strategic objectives, providing capacity building and professional development training to assist young people in making the adjustment to the world of work, fostering and supporting youth programs within communities to promote family development and the adoption of healthy lifestyles, and facilitating the involvement of young people in sporting and other recreational activities. The Deputy Presiding Officer, beyond our work in the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, there are a number of other initiatives across the Assembly which target the development of Tobago's young adults. For example, through the Youth Energized for Success, or YES program in the Division of Finance and the Economy, the Assembly will continue to provide programs and initiatives that foster employment readiness among our island's youth. These programs include life skills, resume writing and interview skills, professional development workshops, the youth entrepreneurship, and the summer internship programs. In addition, through the Financial Literacy Secretariat in the Division of Finance and the Economy, there are a number of programs all geared towards assisting young people in making informed financial decisions. These programs include the Junior Savings Program, Financial Fitness, and the Tobago Money Matters. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I will now turn my attention to the environment. The Assembly's budget for fiscal 2018 also places great focus on the issue of environmental sustainability. The Deputy Presiding Officer, even as we strive to stimulate economic and social development on the island, we must be mindful that we cannot do so at the expense of our pristine environment. We must continue to hold fast to the tenets of the CDP, and that is keeping Tobago clean, green, safe, and serene. It is therefore important that we all recognize that the continued prosperity of Tobago's economy and society depends on the integrity of the environment. Our island is blessed with tremendous natural beauty, and we must preserve this. We must all act as custodians of Tobago's pristine beauty, its fertile land, its freshwater and marine resources, its flora and fauna, and share in the commitment to protect these resources for future generations. Over the next fiscal year, the Assembly proposes to intensify existing efforts aimed at ensuring that Tobago's development proceeds in a sustainable manner. Among these initiatives are the implementation of an effective coastal zone management program to treat with the growing problem of coastal erosion, the design and implementation of a more effective solid waste management system that preserves water quality as well as marine life and activities, the improved collaboration with NGOs, CBOs, and other groups in society on environmentally sustainable programs, the enhanced collaboration with local, regional, and international research institutions in the production of timely, reliable, and accurate data that can shape policy regarding Tobago's environmental resources, and the phasing out of styrofoam use and its replacement with suitable alternatives. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we now look at our initiatives towards the empowerment and building of communities. The Deputy Presiding Officer, sustainable development requires communities to be at the focal point to ensure their effective participation in the development process. For this to occur, communities must be truly empowered. It was just recently that the Executive Council approved the establishment of the Community Consultative Planning Unit in the Division of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, with a primary mandate to bring the Assembly services even closer to the people, and to foster an improved relationship between the Assembly and the community. This unit has at its core objectives the engagement of community stakeholders to actively participate in the development of their communities, the development of a framework to ensure a more customer-centric approach to service delivery in communities, and the establishment of indicators to measure development within communities. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, over the next year, led by the Community Consultative Planning Unit, greater emphasis will be placed on strengthening partnerships with key stakeholders in communities, such as village councils, NGOs, FBOs, and CBOs, to enhance the delivery of government services to the people of Tobago and to foster the development and empowerment of communities. In addition, greater attention will be placed on promoting entrepreneurship and building self-reliance at the community level. Also, through the vocational training program, this administration will continue to provide capacity building training to persons in the community. Over the next few months, 18 training programs are scheduled to be conducted in 13 community centers throughout Tobago. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, beyond the capacity building programs, there are a number of novel community programs which will continue and in some cases be expanded. These include the Integrated Literacy Program, the I Am Woman Program, the Reap What You Sow Program, the Night Market Program, and the Pride of Tobago Project. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, beyond these community empowerment programs, work will continue on the upgrade of existing community facilities. As a result, in the upcoming fiscal year, repair and upgrade works are scheduled for various community centers throughout the island, including Calder Hall, Palatuvier, Glamorgan, John Dyer, Betsy Soap, Mount Grace, Charlotteville, Delaford, and Mount Pleasant. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the foregoing are the broad thematic areas which a fiscal package of the Assembly for 2018 will address. I remain eternally grateful for the many individuals, organizations, and groups who assisted me in shaping the budgetary proposals of the Assembly. Looking ahead, as the life of the CDP 2.0 comes to an end later this year, there's a need to develop a new planning framework for Tobago to guide the island's development in the medium term. The new framework should be developed with a clear understanding of the progress we have made in implementing the CDP, the challenges we face, and the new opportunities that will emerge for the island. We must also be cognizant of the fact that whatever we do will impact future generations. As we build on the solid foundation of successive PNM administrations over the last 16 years, the island is poised for much greater economic activity. And we must leverage all the creative and productive energies of our people in all our developmental initiatives. And that is why our budget for fiscal 2018 is appropriately themed, unleashing the creative and productive capacity of our people. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I now present the expenditure estimates for 2018, starting with the recurrent estimates. The recurrent estimates for fiscal 2018 totals $3.2 billion. This is disaggregated as follows. Personal expenditure, $858.3 million. Goods and services, $1.2 billion. Minor equipment purchases, $127.2 million. And transfers and subsidies, $1.05 billion. This represents a reduction of just under $22 million from last year's request. Distributed across divisions, the recurrent estimates for fiscal 2018 are Assembly Legislature, $28 million. Office of the Chief Secretary, $227.5 million. Finance and the Economy, $184 million. Tourism, Culture and Transportation, $355.4 million. Education, Innovation and Energy, $498.1 million. Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, $110.9 million. Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, $539.5 million. Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries, $324.9 million. Health, Wellness and Family Development, $794.1 million. Settlements, Urban Renewal and Public Utilities, $35.3 million. And Sport and Youth Affairs, $99.8 million. Madam Presiding Officer, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, included among the highlights of the proposed recurrent expenditure for fiscal 2018 are the Youth Development Program, $3 million, the School Feeding Program, $50 million, the Agricultural Incentive Program, $4 million, Information Technology Center, $20 million, the Studley Park Enterprise Limited, $26 million, and assistance to sport tourism organizations, $2.6 million. The Deputy Presiding Officer, I now turn my attention to the development program estimates. The estimates for the development program for fiscal 2018 amount to $1.71 billion, a decrease of $330.6 million from the fiscal 2017 request to the central government. The development program estimates are disaggregated as follows. Pre-investment, $5 million. Productive sectors, $20 million. Economic infrastructure, $738 million. Social infrastructure, $652 million. and multi-sectoral and other services, $294 million. To assist in our program of economic diversification and the development and expansion of the private sector on the island, our development program estimates provide support for the Enterprise Development Company of Tobago, EITCOT, $85.4 million. The Scarborough Esplanade Phase 2 project, $15 million. Enterprise Development, $8 million. The Enterprise Development Grant Program, $9 million. The Business Incubator Program, $6 million. And the Venture Capital Equity Fund Limited, $2 million. Excuse me. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, even as we seek to diversify the Tobago economy, we recognize that the tourism sector will remain one of the primary drivers of economic growth on the island for the next few years. As such, the development program estimates caters for Phase 3 of the 4th King George Heritage Park project at a cost of $6.1 million. The upgrade of Sanctuary Resort, $50 million. Infrastructural works at Pigeon Point, $9.1 million. Upgrade works at Manta Lodge, $8.3 million. Construction of beach facilities at Englishman's Bay, $2 million. Construction of cruise ship berths, $2 million. The revitalization of the agricultural sector remains a critical priority for this administration. As such, our development program caters for the establishment of farmers' markets at Goldsboro and Blackrock at a cost of $3.5 million. The development of an agro park at the Friendship Estate at a cost of $10 million. An expanded agricultural access roads program at a cost of $80 million. The improvement of the Roxborough Market and Abattoir at a cost of $10 million. The improvement of beaches and landing facilities, $10 million. And the improvement to the Buku Reef Marine Park, management and ecological monitoring, $2.5 million. The Deputy Presiding Officer, support for education is also a primary focus of this administration. Our development program estimates make provision for the support of educational programs and improvement of facilities. We have therefore budgeted for improvements to primary schools, $26.7 million. The upgrade to Happy Haven School, $10 million. The construction of the school for the deaf, $10.5 million. The upgrade of the Roxborough Trade Center, $2 million. A program for the computerization of primary schools, $10 million. And the upgrade of the Roxborough Library, $11.5 million. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, provisions are also made for accelerating the public housing program of the Assembly and increasing the housing stock on the island. Accordingly, our development program estimates provide for land development at Colon Estate, $26.8 million. Land development at Sherburn Road, $18 million. The development of Adventure Phase 2, $11.3 million. And land development at the Adelphi Estate, $15.8 million. Additionally, we'll continue to upgrade and expand our road infrastructure. As such, our development program estimates provide for major improvement works on secondary roads, $55 million. The Roxborough Body Bay Road and construction of a retaining wall, $7.5 million. Improvement to Milford Road bridges, $30 million. A road resurfacing program of $30 million. Rehabilitation of the Claude Noel Highway, $12 million. Improvement work along the Plymouth-Arnosville Road, $15 million. Construction of the Milford Road bypass to Smithfield, $15 million. The Milford Road upgrade works, $10 million. Improvements to the North Side Road, $12.5 million. And improvement work to the Orange Hill Road, $6 million. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the development program estimates provide a snapshot of the many initiatives of the Assembly to propel Tobago's development. Our investments seek to impact all sectors of the economy. The development program estimates, while audacious, are not unreasonable and are geared towards quality delivery to the people of Tobago. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I wish to include as well in the estimates for fiscal 2018 provisions for URP and CPEP totaling $77.2 million and $54 million, respectively. The Deputy Presiding Officer, in addition to the expenditure items which I alluded to earlier, this administration expects that, consistent with the provision of the 6th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act 40 of 1996, that there will be other items of expenditure funded by the central government and other ministries and state agencies in Tobago. Accordingly, we anticipate that with the improved collaboration between the central government and the Assembly, this expenditure will be quite substantial to support our shared vision of economic diversification, with Tobago as the focal point for investment in the tourism sector. In this regard, projects to be funded by these off-budget expenditure items include the construction of the new terminal at the ANR Robinson International Airport, the construction of the Old Grange and Roxborough police stations, the construction of a desalinization plant at Cove, and the expansion of the power generation capacity at the Cove Eco-Industrial Complex. The Deputy Presiding Officer, permit me to address the financing of the expenditure estimates for fiscal 2018. The fiscal package of the Assembly for 2018 will be financed from various sources. The primary source will be transfers from the central government in accordance with their statutory responsibilities under the Tobago House of Assembly Act 40 of 1996. The allocations to the Tobago House of Assembly are usually offset against the revenue collected in Tobago on behalf of the central government and is retained in accordance with sections 49(3) of the THA Act 40 of 1996. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, for fiscal 2018, the estimates of revenue, both tax and non-tax, are as follows. Tax on income and profits, $141.6 million. Taxes on property, $0.5 million. Taxes on goods and services, $73.9 million. Taxes on international trade, $4 million. Other taxes, $5.2 million, bringing total tax revenue to $225.2 million. Property income taxes, $0.1 million. Other non-tax revenue, $1.2 million, bringing total non-tax revenue to $1.3 million, and the overall total revenue for fiscal 2018 is projected at $226.5 million. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we have explored other plausible options involving multilateral assistance and support to advance the island's development, some of which I will now discuss in detail. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, over the past fiscal year, we have increased the level of collaboration with many of our multilateral partners and those in the local financial services sector, as we sought to leverage their expertise to improve operational efficiency and to position ourselves to access additional technical and financial resources. This has been a key area as the Assembly realigns itself for greater effectiveness in the management of fiscal resources and risk emanating from new endeavors and refined processes. Through these partnerships, the Division of Finance and Economy intends to adopt a suite of standardized assessment tools to strengthen the execution and appraisal basis of our activities. And these include the Public-Private Partnership Fiscal Risk Assessment Model and the Public Investment Management Assessment. These tools will allow us a deeper understanding of various aspects of our fiscal position and institutional frameworks. They also will assist in identifying priorities for reform and technical assistance. Moreover, they support the advancement of results-based management by providing measurable indicators to monitor and evaluate progress. The International Monetary Fund, through the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, CARTAC, has accommodated a number of delegates from the Assembly in capacity building exercises in some of these areas, with further assistance to follow over the next fiscal period. The Assembly has also sought immediate hands-on technical and financial support to assist us in achieving our medium-term physical and social infrastructure goals. To this end, with the support of the Ministries of Finance and Economy and Planning and Development, we have begun discussions with the IADB and the World Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank on a medium-term infrastructure investment strategy and project pipeline for Tobago with 3 viable pilot projects. This will be a comprehensive strategy to encourage innovative proposals aligned with Tobago's infrastructure priorities and which meet identified societal needs. It will feature a transparent and detailed procurement process for both publicly initiated and unsolicited proposals so as to avoid parallel procurement tracks and also to discourage the development and submission of unfeasible proposals, ultimately ensuring better use of our limited public sector resources. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this Assembly has been working with the local financial community to review our options for alternative financing mechanisms for capital expenditure. Feedback from the market thus far on our ability to raise funding as a standalone entity has been positive, and with the necessary approvals, we can undoubtedly finance several of our larger projects through alternative funding mechanisms. We intend to pursue this, mindful of our fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Tobago to be prudent with our resources and to manage our debt profile while still delivering on our developmental goals. In addition to these initiatives by the Division of Finance and Economy, the IADB, through the Ministry of Planning and Development, and together with the Division of Education, has approved a new education advancement program that will commence with the construction of 5 early childhood care and education centers for Tobago at a value of over $60 million. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, you may recall that under the previous central government, these 5 centers had twice been excluded from implementation in April 2013 and May 2015, despite previously securing approval and having satisfied the listed requirements of the IADB. However, in the renewed spirit of respect and cooperation with this new central government, these projects have been prioritized in the new funding facility. In addition to the physical infrastructure, this initiative also seeks to measure the quality of the cognitive and social-emotional development of children at these centers, and we will utilize these assessments to inform both remedial and policy directions. The Deputy Presiding Officer, we have leveraged our partners to improve evidence-based decision-making as an assembly. And this is a theme that will run throughout the next fiscal year as we work with our central government counterparts on a more inclusive strategic rollout of our development plans. The Ministry of Planning and Development has played a key role in this, and recently, together with the Caribbean Development Bank, has held a series of consultations with the Tobago House of Assembly to identify specific projects for implementation support in the 2016 to 2020 Country Strategic Plan. It is noteworthy that Tobago had a significant input in shaping Trinidad and Tobago's overall country strategy. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, as an assembly, this administration is committed to utilizing all our resources and those of our external partners to ensure we achieve the projects and program activities previously outlined. We are well aware of our technical and financial constraints. We believe that there is much that can be learned and gained from working together, and we will continue to do so for the mutual benefit of all involved. The Deputy Presiding Officer, as we conclude today's budget presentation, I wish to reiterate that notwithstanding the current economic challenges, the future of Tobago is promising. Building on the foundation established over the last 16 years, I can say without the fear of contradiction that this island is poised for greater economic activity. As we seek to address our current and emerging challenges, our success will depend on reasoned collaboration, mutual trust, and reliance on our sense of patriotism. The people of Tobago gave this administration a renewed mandate at the 2017 polls and have entrusted the management of this island to us for the next 4 years. And they will be observing our conduct both inside this house and in our public, professional, and personal lives. We must be mindful of this. We must also make a conscious effort to harness our creativity towards maximizing our productive capacity in furtherance of our development. The Deputy Presiding Officer, let us therefore leverage and take full advantage of the new environment of mutual respect, collaboration, and partnership that now characterizes the relationship between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government. This will redound to our ultimate benefit. There are a number of critical projects in the developmental pipeline, inclusive of the Sandals Resort, the new airport terminal at Crown Point, and a desalination and power plant at the Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park. We must therefore ensure that these projects are delivered to the people of Tobago. We must also ensure that we find a permanent and sustainable solution to our problems on the air and sea bridge, and that we solve as well our long-standing problems with regards to land titles in Tobago, and that once and for all, we bring to fruition the issue of self-government for the people of Tobago. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this has been an auspicious morning. On behalf of the Chief Secretary, all Secretaries and Assistant Secretaries of the Tobago House of Assembly, I thank our audience within the chamber and the people listening for your time and attention. May God continue to bless you all, and may God continue to bless the people of Tobago and the island and Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I beg to move.
The question is, be it resolved that this House approve the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year October 1st, 2017 to September 30th, 2018, copies of which were laid on the table at an earlier stage of the proceedings. Leader of Assembly Business.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I beg to move that this House now stand adjourned to Tuesday, the 26th at 10 a.m.
Members, the question is that this House do stand adjourned to Tuesday, the 26th of June, 2017 at 10 a.m.
27th. Apologies.
Tuesday, the
27th.
27th, sorry, at 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned to next week, Tuesday, the 27th of June at 10 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, folks, we're back, and that was the 2018 budget presented by Secretary for Finance and the Economy, Joel Jack. And we have joining us on our panel is Murchison Neptune, and we continue here with Caroline Buther-James and
Anything.
Anselm Richards. All right. Okay, guys, your initial thoughts. Charmy, we start with you.
Oh, yes. The only thing, nothing to be excited about here. Only thing that will excite you a little bit is that development in the northeastern part of Tobago. But this thing is in the details, and we have not got much details. You
When you say something is missing for urgent development in the northeast.
That is correct. Therefore, you should have concrete details as to exactly what you want to do there. Including, you should have had about 3 areas where you could have earmarked for hotel development and already put it out for bids and for people to be interested in. So that I found that to be the only real interesting part. The part that I don't like is that the solution to the air bridge and sea bridge is eminent. What does that mean to the people of Tobago? There's no meaning there, and I think you know, he needs to improve on that.
After all, I mean, eminent could be any time.
Well, that is it.
And very, very shortly.
Not good enough.
Anselm, your initial response.
Well, just to take a jump start from the sister here is that this Northeast development issue is not a new issue. In the last 16 years, there was a Northeast development plan for Tobago. And I guess this push is as a backwash of the poverty report that said that concentration of poverty is in the Northeast of Tobago, where over 35% of the population living under poverty. That is the 2014 poverty study. So I guess that they are responding to that. But the issue of a Northeast development plan is not a new one. There was a comprehensive one developed by Ralph Henry within the last 16 years, and nothing was done. Nothing was done in Northeast Tobago in the last 16 years. I hope that something probably magical will come out of this presentation, because there is new leadership, there are new faces on the block, as it were. But beyond that, I don't think that there is, well, I am concerned. I may pose a question to you. What are we to expect at the end of 2018 in Tobago, coming from this presentation? What could you tell Tobago and will you expect in Tobago?
I really, we have to see the details because there are figures associated with different divisions and programs.
I guess the secretary should have given a way, where are we going and where we will be at the end of 2018. Could you see clearly where Tobago will be at the end of 2018? That is how you evaluate this presentation. And when I was saying to you off here that I am scared because what this is presenting to us, it is an administration that have lost its way. Clearly. There's a sort of patch thing. You've gone back to 16 years. You're telling me about your achievement with the Link Road, which was there when you was 20-something years. You're 40 now. That's the secretary. You know, and you were there for the last 4 years, and you could not present to us in Tobago one significant development you have done over the last 4 years with $10 billion at the disposal as the Secretary for Finance and the Economy. You know, so it tells me that the administration have not gotten its program and its direction and its policy in any strategic way. It has not, you know, lined up its ducks properly to take the people of Tobago forward. I am scared because I'm not seeing anything unfolding, as the sister say, that presents an outlook for us, that presents some kind of hope and excitement. from what you did.
Okay.
It's
And
a
you
set
should have
of,
seen that in the budget statement.
Of course, in the
But
budget
of course,
statement.
the budget details is what we have to look at
But
and what we don't know.
Remember,
for fact.
this is the first. This is the first
Of a new
conversation.
administration.
It's the first conversation. This is the conversation of the most important policy statement of the administration that will come. The details are important, yes, but this should excite us to look at the details. If you are not excited, what sense are you going to look at the detail? If a woman had to excite you before you go further, you know that. Come on.
Neptune, you might be able to respond to that better than me.
you know
But
that.
I really want to hear your response with respect to agriculture.
Well, I would focus.
You were part of the agriculture.
Yeah, I would focus on agriculture. Basically, over the last 20 years, we haven't seen any development in the agricultural sector. Right? We have only had promises, basically, about revitalizing the agricultural
What
sector.
development you would have liked to see? What you would have liked to see, or what was missing from the budget? Or what you focus on the budget that you think shouldn't be emphasized?
Right, there are a number of things we focus on in the budget. And these are recurring decimal, because over the years we have been hearing about increasing production. We have been hearing about land tenure, the issue of the land tenure regularization, things like land distribution. Well, you haven't mentioned about the land distribution.
Cocoa
program.
revitalization and chocolate production.
We haven't heard anything. Just last night I was listening to a program in Trinidad, and they are a step ahead of us in terms of the cocoa industry. Over the years, we have not done anything in the cocoa industry. In fact,
There's an attempt to do something now.
We
What
have
about
been destroying the cocoa
agri-revitalization team? That
Yeah, well,
they just set up to
I-
do something to revitalize the agriculture and the food
I
production
am
sector.
cautiously optimistic because, as I said, over the years, they have been making promises and plans about the agricultural sector. Well, I'm a member of that team. And
I understand you only had one meeting so far?
well, that was an introduction meeting. The meeting starts in full next Wednesday. We are down to work on next Wednesday. What the Chief Secretary mentioned is that he wants us to develop an action plan within 3 months to take the sector forward. And I guess one of the things the team would do is to utilize or implement the strategic plan, because you know that the division would have developed a strategic plan in the last year or two, and it has not been developed as yet.
Yes.
It has
You
not
mean
been implemented as yet. So I think this team is going to basically prepare that action plan to really implement the strategic plan of the division.
You all heard about this. Was it your proposal about the agro park at Friendship, where there'll be a lot of training programs and
Well,
different systems and use of
That's what
technology?
mentioned before, and nothing has been done. In fact, I would like to really see them develop that area and include agriculture. One of the things I'm concerned about is that this southwestern area, which basically produce a lot, well, most of the vegetables on the island, experiences water problem.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting in Rwasa a couple of weeks ago, in fact about a month ago, and they have indicated that...
All right, let's go to Watson Duke. I understand we get an interview with Watson Duke.
It was a very painful budget and sickening to say the least.
What about the tourism sector? You have a helps for the tourism sector.
We speak another length on Tuesday.
Any other measures with respect to also the health sector?
We hold all of that on Tuesday.
Mr. Kali Augustine, would you like to speak out with respect to the budget? What's your view at this time?
Well, what you witnessed this morning was much regurgitated rhetoric to be presented on a platter, a plethora of failed and positive This has been our 5th consecutive budget under Secretary Jack, and it's our 5th consecutive budget with poor economic analysis. It's our 5th consecutive budget with whereby we are seeing gargantuan sums being allocated to current expenditure and significantly less towards development spending, which means that we still at this point don't have a strategic plan moving to being away from such a teacher dependency island to one where the private sector thrives. And so come Tuesday, at the budget, and we will explore the fact that what we
Apparently we're getting something there.
Wouldn't come in from that
But
place.
apparently the location, I'm not too sure. Well,
No, I'm talking about the institution there. That's where they come from.
I don't want to get into that. But
let me just raise a point.
Yes.
On the proposed agro park, there was a similar concept of an agro park that was designed for Kuala. You bear me out on that.
Yeah.
I don't know where that project is, but the THA had something they were doing down there with the intention of going to this full demonstration facility managed by the THA and all of that. I don't know where that is going. Here we are with another $10 million proposal for the Friendship Estate with another agro park. What are we to expect from this? What is the sustainability? What will happen? Because we have had these efforts before. And one of the things I think is absent from the conversation is that Tobago really have to sit down and decide how we are building our capacity for sustainability. We have probably a capacity not to sustain things. Our sustained efforts are not there, and therefore we have to develop the capacity that when we engage in an activity that is important and instrumental to our survival, that we have the capacity to sustain it over time.
Yeah. All right.
Cannot allow that to happen. So at this point in time, we are probably calling on the minister when he's looking at his allocation to not just look at the 4.03 allocation of the national budget, but even a higher figure, so especially for the development side of the budget presentation by Mr. Jam.
Would you say your air and sewerage concerns that the chamber has consistently been speaking out on, was that addressed?
Well, I was a bit disappointed that the secretary, I was hoping that the secretary would have come in the house today and said to us that a boat is available, this is the name of the boat, and the boat will be here by the end of the month and it's going to be in use. I am a little disappointed because we cannot no longer go with whatever the central government. They have made a number of promises that has not stood up to us and come to fruition, and I was hoping today that the secretary would have announced that there was a boat available, because that is what is really and truly hampering and hurting the business community and the economy of Tobago.
Can you tell us a quantum in terms of the losses at this time facing the business community? You would have said an amount would have been available to us.
Well, we got some people, some members, did brought in, we're looking at about a 40 to 35% loss in terms of for the last 3 months in terms of revenue for businesses on the island. We are trying to collaborate that figure, because you know some businesses larger, some businesses smaller. So we are hoping to get a figure shortly to at least have people understand what are the losses without this facility.
Mr. Cruikshank, what are your initial thoughts on the Assembly encouraging and facilitating innovation?
Yes, we saw that the implementation, they wanted the increase in the IT of Tobago was a good move for the Assembly to develop in the economic development plan. We hope that all this that is there can be implemented in short periods of time to try to increase our development. So we can come away from our services industry where we're basically 90%, that's what they said. The getting of that to have the island of Tobago encompass that is the key problem, and hoping that can be addressed some form as well.
Mr. Cruikshank, in going forward, where do you see the Tobago Chamber? Will there be protest action?
Well, I am putting the nation on notice now. If we do not have a cargo vessel, a suitable cargo vessel, and this inter-island sea bridge is fixed by now and the end of the month, we are seeing some of our members say they are not willing to continue business. Right? It is as hard as you can get now. So we're hoping that this problem be fixed once and for all. We were also hoping that in the minister's speech that we would have called as a chamber to put the inter-island transportation system into the hands of the Tobago House of Assembly. Let the Tobago House of Assembly run the inter-island shipping service, and that a problem like this that we are facing now will never happen if we are running our own business. So that is something I'm looking forward to from the minister's budget speech later on in the year, that some sort of provision be made that the Tobago House of Assembly run the inter-island service. This is our business, and I think we have the capacity and we have the passion to run the service.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We would have just
The Chief Secretary is coming to the
That's good. Ladies and gentlemen,
like the cautiously use that word, and we see what imminently means.
yes, that
imminently, Chief Secretary.
As you recognize, it's the first budget of my watch, and I am very, very pleased with the various areas of focus and the various themes.
There was not much into depth about the air and sea bridge as to, more in depth. We heard a mention, but we did not, Mr. Jack did not go into depth about the sea bridge concerns, air and sea bridge concerns, and how it should be addressed. How soon will Tobago be getting a vessel?
Very shortly, and I shall elaborate on that when I speak on the budget debate on Tuesday.
And what about tourism in terms of going forward with Tobago's tourism thrust? There's a significant decline in the tourism industry at this time, and there are also some businesses that have closed down.
Well, the Secretary for Tourism would treat with all those detailed matters, but of course, as we would have indicated in the budget since coming to office, we would have taken what you may say the unprecedented step of establishing a Tobago tourism agency. That has never been done before, and that agency is designed to, among other things, provide a kind of filling, as it were, to the development of the sector in Tobago. Only yesterday we would have approved the board of directors for that agency, and the secretary again would elaborate on that. So we are putting in place the requisite activities, the prerequisite activities to facilitate the redevelopment of the sector. And I assure you that action will be taken on several fronts, because we recognize the value of tourism to the economy of Tobago. Indeed, if we were to cast your minds back, those of you may have been following the campaign and may have been looking at our manifesto, we would have identified that in the short to medium term, our emphasis would be on tourism, agriculture, light manufacturing, and specialized services as the core economic strategies for revitalizing the economy of Tobago.
We are hearing much talk from the government with respect to sandals, but we are not hearing it from the THA. What's going on with that?
Have patience, my dear friend. Have patience. Rome was not built in a day. As I did promise, once we begin to get information that we feel can be disseminated to the population, we will do so. As you know, we have begun our negotiations, and negotiations are at a very delicate stage. But don't worry, you shall be advised appropriately.
And how soon will the people of Tobago be a part of these talks? Consultation, that is.
Well, consultations in the main would revolve around issues relative to the environment and so on. And therefore, as soon as the application for CC and so on, the Environmental Commission will set up those conversations. And of course, we'll expect Tobagonians to participate fully.
Do you think Tobagonians are happy with this budget presentation, $4.9 billion?
I think Tobagonians recognize that there are things to be done. And in fact, the theme of the budget, which is unleashing the creative and productive capacity of our people, as you would, I'm sure, and so
We'll get more. We'll get we get the rest of that in the news and other programs that will follow. And he seemed to be, that's the Chief Secretary, that he have a lot to say and to unleash on us on the, when he speaks at the debate, when the debate continues on Thursday or Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Tuesday next week. All right. So, Chairman, let us deal a little bit on what he spoke about, the ship in terms of, he said you have a lot more to talk about the ship, that the boat that is coming, boat of boats, and he said very soon and not imminent this time.
Yeah, well, you see, next week, Tuesday, is too late. You're already in problems here, and therefore you make your budget statement. Now is the time to address the people. You have a lot of the people from Tobago listening to this budget presentation, and now is the time for you to say when this boat is coming. You're going to say Tuesday. We don't know if you're going to give a date.
But some of us feel that it's coming the first week in July. A lot of people seem to get that information.
And therefore, what is wrong in saying that right now?
Maybe you want to say
more
that
or less.
Budget.
Yes, but
they seem
count
to be
the
saying,
days.
most like I'm hearing in between that it may come somewhere before or on or before the first week in July.
So
well, therefore, if you could say it, why he can't say it? He's a person that we voted for to be in charge of here, and people are suffering. Now is the time to gerrymander with time and all that kind of a thing and be formal. Tell the people exactly what is happening. Let people be a little satisfied. Look, it's 5 more days, 6 more days, or how many days of this hardship. But look, we are coming to the area where instead of sucking salt, we're going to be sucking sugar cake. You understand me?
Jerry,
So
here's the thing.
that's not good enough.
Here's the thing. There's a thing called confidence. Confidence. And you see what is happening here with this boat issue? They're playing games, and they're going to destroy the confidence of the people in the system. And I'm saying, if you are aware that a boat could be here by the first week of July,
but I'm not
no, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying. Just allow me to make the point.
Tell me that.
Just, then this administration, in collaboration with their counterpart, they say it's collaboration and partnership, is PNME and PNMD, they should have come to the people of Tobago this morning and say to us, we had problems with the sea bridge, we have worked with our counterpart in Trinidad, this is where we are, we have identified boat X, ship X or ship Z or whatever it is, the name is Jerry McFarlane, the vessel name is Jerry McFarlane. It will arrive in Trinidad on the 30th of June, and it will go into operation on the 1st or the 2nd week in July or whatever, and build confidence in the people. This thing is a game, because here's the next thing. There is this thing about tourism development, and we establish a tourism authority, but yet we have a company that is chaired by a former secretary, where all the lands for that development is vested in. There's some Boko development private company that the state is now moving to transfer the lands from the CLICO investment into that company to do the negotiation with Sanders. If we have established a tourism authority to see about tourism development in Tobago, what is the difficulty in transferring that land to the THA under that establishment, so that we could have a central structured administration and development of the tourism sector in Tobago? This is the kind of thing that is going to destroy the confidence.
All right, easy politics a while. Let me deal with somebody.
This is not politics. This is not politics, Jerome.
What we want to hear is, with respect to you're comfortable with the tourism, the board that will be appointed?
Not at all, because we have no idea exactly what the board consists of. I'm talking about how many tourism experts you need there, how many stakeholders you're going to put.
The secretary will make that statement when she speaks on Tuesday.
Well, hello, we should have known. I
want
vice
all
president.
the details and the budget to be done in the statement. I don't understand this, man. Come on.
In the informal discussions that we have had with our association, we should have had an idea of who, the type of people who are going to be on that board. I'll tell you something. I'm not enamored with no chairman, be no lecturer. We have had too much of that, and listen to me, they do not have that working experience
on the ground,
and also they do not have the track record of performance. What is performance in the tourism sector? Let me tell you, it's numbers, Jerry. If we are getting 19,000 this year and we want to increase, we want to see success, it means next year we want 21,000. Other than that, fire you.
And no lecturer from Caville, originally from Tobago, could make that change.
Well, hello. the thing about, you heard what I said, I'm not enamored. Was this person ever in the rail tourism industry working? What is their track record? Did they help to transform the Barbados or whoever it is, tourism industry, that they were able to get 21,000, now it turned to 25,000, and the numbers going up. These are the kind of things
that is an important point, because the person is coming to the process, right? They may come with an academic network,
right?
But what you want is an international application, network application of key stakeholders that you can deploy.
Movers and shakers.
Of course.
But of course, Jerry.
Yeah. So, Nepi, what about if we having Sanders? You think if, let us say that the discussions go a particular way in favor of us here in Tobago, how your farmers and your colleagues could respond to this challenge after 3 years or so before construction?
But he could talk to the sheep farming in Mason Hall.
Well, we already start mobilizing our farmers, you know. We already start mobilizing our farmers. What we need right now is information in terms of what they require, what quantities, what quality, and so on.
They say we need 1 million eggs a year, and that sort of thing. How many 100,000 pounds of potato, how much plantain,
how much mutton they need? How much mutton they need?
You know, how much of that, you have your reserves of that, or you have plans to get your farmers so stimulated that they can produce that, or even half of that at the time that is required?
But how are you in the agricultural sector asking for numbers, and there are persons outside the agricultural sector know how much tonnage of mutton and pork they will need and have been setting up farms in Mason Hall to capitalize on that market? And you in the agricultural sector, so what are you doing? Are you being left out?
Yeah, we have been left out. We have not been provided with that.
You're saying that people are strategically placed to advance their own personal interests?
Well, let me say this.
Standing by to hear Joel. Jack will be
all right.
Jack will be coming
while you're waiting on him, there's a clause they're talking about in the contract that have me concerned. It talks about employment, where after 3 months, if they don't get the numbers of persons that they want, they can bring in people. Does the same clause go for your agricultural produce and that kind of a thing?
Of course.
These are the things that we need
to
flesh out and so on.
Think of yourself, or Cano Bay Resorts, for example, going to St. Lucia, and you can't get the people you want to be employed in St. Lucia. You know, what you will do, you won't get them outside? That has to be part of the arrangement. If you can't get your agricultural produce there within 3 months, as agreed to, and well established before that you will need this amount, and so on, if you can't get it after 3 months or so,
then
you will have your right.
Then tell the people that this is part of the clauses, because the next thing you know, you're going to try to set up your egg production, and they will say, oh, after 3 months, look, we can't get it, let's import. You have to be very careful with all these companies that come and so on. That is why whatever you're negotiating, some of it is confidential, it's true, but somebody need public scrutiny. You understand me? What you're going to add to that clause?
Full stakeholder involvement.
Of course.
Is very critical.
And full disclosure too. You understand me? As some of these nuances of some of these clauses and so on.
The Barbados experience is instructive. You know, Sanders has a warehouse and they import everything out of the United States, and the price that they are getting eggs at the farm gate in the United States, you can't match that in Barbados. And they are warehousing everything.
And the clause allowing them to do that.
And the kind of economic impact the investment was designed to have in terms of local economic activity. It is not having that in Barbados, because the importation is now utilizing a significant part of the earnings from and it is not really percolating in the domestic
economy. We're going to Joel Jack now at the House, at the legislature, the chamber. Yeah.
It's another $5 billion package. What we have is $3.19 billion for recurrent expenditure, approximately 1.7 billion for development program. We have provisions as well for CPEP and URP of 77 and $53 billion respectively. So let me say that again. In addition to the numbers, I'm excited about the proposal, the fiscal package put forward by the Assembly. And as this new administration outlines our plans, as we outline our plans and proposals, to continue Tobago's development trajectory and continue to develop Tobagonians. I'm also excited about our continuation of our Human Capital Development Program, so that young people will have continued access to pursue tertiary education. I'm also excited about our plans with respect to economic resilience and continued our focus on economic diversification and innovation. I'm excited about the prospects throughout our Tobago Information Technology Limited and through our discussions with Huawei Technologies in terms of creating at least 500 jobs in the ICT sector over the next 3 to 5 years, and to leverage ICT as an enabler of socioeconomic development and to make Tobago an intelligent island. So I'm also excited about our focus in terms of going deeper within the communities to stimulate and support community entrepreneurship, and that will now be focused on under the Division of Community Development. I'm also excited about our plans for sector development. At our consultation with the Farmers Association and the agro-processors, they indicated the need for support. They also indicated that they recently introduced a platform in terms of sharing of information, and we're going to work with the agro-processors, the Tobago Agricultural Society, to develop an ICT platform so that they can really, bring together buyers and sellers together. So the prospects for the agro-processors, prospects of beekeeping, I'm also excited about. I'm also excited about in terms of the agriculture revitalization plans and those programs. And I know in our discussions with the agricultural sector, they as well put forward several proposals. A number of their proposals were included in the budget debate. And again, I cannot leave out tourism and the importance of the tourism sector to the Tobago economy. And again, we have, following our consultation with the stakeholders, they have also requested increased marketing support, and that was included in the sum of $100 million for a revived marketing program, and as well additional investment to develop and introduce new products in the tourism sector. You could point to the canopy tours on the main ridge, the Fort King George project, and other infrastructural investment in the tourism industry. And together with the new tourism agency and working together with the stakeholders, we should see an improvement in airlift and improvement in marketing. But what we want as well is a corresponding improvement in the room quality and also service excellence. And we are willing to work with the tourism sector to achieve this. And additionally, I'm also excited about the prospects for the impending investment in the tourism sector, and I think we have a responsibility as the Tobago House of Assembly to prepare all of Tobago so that they can really make use of these opportunities when they are bound down. We are working to retool farmers, we are working to assist entrepreneurs, we are working to provide the necessary training to persons looking for employment in the tourism sector, and we continue to fulfill our responsibility as a Tobago House of Assembly to provide and enable an environment for all Tobagonians to prosper and succeed. And in closing, just in closing, we will continue to work with the business community, both the chamber, the SME, the MERSO and micro entrepreneurs and all persons in business. I think we have a responsibility to provide the enabling environment to improve the ease of doing business in Tobago and to try to foster business confidence on the island. So we have a huge mandate moving forward over the next 4 years, and the plans that I outlined in the budget for fiscal 2018 will allow us to achieve most of these issues. Well, in recent discussions with the Minister of Works, that is in train, and we should hear in the near future, I think, concrete plans, if not before the national budget, during the national budget debate. We will have concrete plans outlined with respect to the airport, but I can update you to the fact that the drawings are near finalization. They're just about undertaking satellite mapping to locate the footprint of the proposed site. So I'm really excited about the prospects for this important project.
Do you really believe ANC Bridge?
Yeah, okay, all right. Chairman, some interesting thing there with respect to the tourism canopy tours and the new agency. And the new agency, they hope, will bring airlift. Yes. That's quite interesting. I mean, well, what the new agency will do that apparently has not done before.
Well, you know, this was supposed to be an authority, but they realized they will need legislation, so they call it an agency now. Okay, and they think that this will work faster. If we need finance to go to trade shows and so on, that you can get the money faster, you can make decisions quicker, and so on, instead of going to the public service. Yes, the agency is a positive thing, but you see, you have to you have to maintain the positivity, and that means that agency should have been up and running already. They are dismantling the TDC at the end of this month. You're waiting until they dismantle the TDC before you start your agency. From the time you agree to it, you should have had your board set out already and start marketing your Tobago, whether internationally or locally. You see, he has made something about the $100 million in marketing. That is wish, of course, and $15 million for small hotels. You understand me? If in truth and in fact we get most of this for marketing Tobago, that would be a step in the right direction. 15 million to improve the small hotels. Yes, you either give it in a grant or a proper revolving loan at 2% or something like that, and so on. So I hope that whatever monies you get, if you keep these two figures here, I think we are moving in the right direction for the marketing. But we have to hear if salaries and that kind of thing going to eat up this money here.
Yeah, quite interesting. Positive things. Two positive things, Anselm, that you think comes out of this presentation or this statement. Positive things. I know it's kind of difficult for you and your politics.
No,
let me get serious.
This is not politics.
Let me get serious.
You see, I'm a trained man. I have spent over 7 years in the university studying economics. So when these things come to me, I am not processing these things on politics, I am processing these things as an expert in the field of economics and economic development.
But I still would like you to indicate.
No, I'm just saying that because you see what you are doing. What you are doing there. When you start to talk about your politics, you are weaponizing the information, which is a dangerous thing. It's part of what they are doing in the United States with alternative news and fake news and all kind of thing. And that is something that we have a commonality within Tobago. As somebody else is from a different political establishment and they're making an informed position, they say it's politics.
All right,
but weaponize No, I want to make this point.
Okay, I hear you.
Weaponizing the information. The fact of the matter is that we have had a very disastrous budget presentation. I could search to see if I could find two positive things to satisfy your request. One, the issue of the information technology with the jobs.
The ICT.
But then beyond that, the training is one thing. There was no conversation about the infrastructure requirement to drive that process. What TSTT, who are you going to involve? Are you going to bring new entrants into the market to drive that?
We could, that obviously will come in the details.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that is absent, but that is a critical thing. So you could have all these nice things.
It's a critical project from what I understand.
So that is important. So how do we now put in the fiber optic capabilities and move the technology? Who are the investors going to bring that? TSTT is under pressure.
Actually, the platform for transforming, for making the digital transformation.
But even more than that, what we need a whole reorientation of the education system for that to be sustainable. So that the education system have to now be built on a digital platform. So throughout the education system, you have persons, participants, stakeholders who are now digitizing their thinking. So they will be easily uploading into the new project. That's a critical thing. So it's not just you're getting 500 jobs. It's a bigger project than that.
Of course.
So that is one thing, but it's how it's going to be rolled out is another issue, right?
Yeah. A second positive.
A second positive.
Yeah. You say ICT. And
I have said openly before that the issue of the turbo boosting that will come from a Sanders side investment in terms of some of the long outstanding infrastructural requirement like the airport terminal, the police station, and other supporting infrastructure for that project will boost the Tobago economy. But beyond that, I would like to see the details of the Sanders agreement being made public so that Tobagonians will get a fair understanding of what we are getting into, how are we not going to be compromising on our fiscal requirement in terms of our fiscal concessions. Are we going to give up more in fiscal concession that going to, when you do the net off by employment and so forth, we are at a loss, you know, because that is happening in a lot of the destination or countries within which this establishment is operating. So therefore, we need to have that information brought to the people so that the people can really get into it, massage it, probe it, and see how the people are going to be truly benefiting from this investment. So that is one. Another critical one is the proposal of the early childhood, the 5-1, and the funding arrangement for it. If that
$60 million, I think,
from the IDB, right? So you know the IDB was instrumental in the SEM program, which is the Secondary School Modernization Program that built Speyside, Goodwood, and Mason Hall. So if the IDB are always investing in education, and if they are coming back at the preschool level, then that's a good development.
The physical infrastructure.
The physical infrastructure. But what we need to do now, we need to provide the human resource capability to build the kind of
the capital development, the human capital development program is extremely important.
And I want to tie this to that, because he's proposing to spend $77.2 million on URP and a further $54 million on, no, I'm serious, on CPEP. Now, strategically thinking, I would have preferred to spend $100 million out of that money on technical training, establishing a technical institution somewhere in probably use Roxborough Secondary School, and train our young people in technological development, in, let me say, construction technology, repairs of cell phone, start teaching them programming. That is a better investment than spending this money on URP. Reduce this, pull the young people out of CFP, put them, you're talking about human resource development, put them into some technical training program, do 2 centers, one in the east, one in the west. You're talking about poverty in the east. That is a good way to prepare people in the east to get into the market. That is a kind of strategic.
All right, we need to go to Chami. We run out of time, but that's a fantastic thing, and we need to. Chami, we want to get 2. You gave us one already about the thing. Give us 2. Only 2 positives coming out of this.
Yeah, well, I talked about the marketing already. I have them ticked off here, you know.
Just the positives.
Yes. Well, I realize that you want to talk about. No, they talked about. Yes, I have it here. They talked about the creative industries and you're talking about the craft and so on. And that is a good thing. But here's what. The craft market. Where's the craft market? All these islands, all these countries, they have craft market everywhere. So this is the kind of thing. You have to go one step further in your proposal. You're talking about the craft, you're training the craft and whatever it is. The visitors come, they want to buy something. Where are the specific markets for that? So I have that tick off. And but I want to say something, whether positive or negative, Jerry. This is my Tobago, you know. I have nowhere else to go. Let me say this. The Secretary of Finance made a statement. He talked about the THA generating a majority of the economic activity. He should have proposed inside here to decrease some of that. Because really, countries that are developing and islands that are developing, it is a private sector that must be the generator of the economic activity, and you, the government, must just facilitate. It means that every month you should be calling Demi John and Chris James and so on. What can we do for you? How can we facilitate you in your projects and so on? And not so much you employing all these people here, unless they are technicians and technical things and so on. And that's a point that he has to pay attention to.
Support 100%.
Yes.
Okay, Neptune, let me hear you.
Right.
Let me see about agriculture. Let me get about 3 from you.
The creation of the ART, the Agricultural Revitalization Team, I think it's a step in the right direction. And that team, they have, I think it's a very good team.
You mean the revitalization team?
Yes. I think the members of that team are very knowledgeable and so on, and I think they can really take the agriculture industry to where it's supposed to be. Once we get the support, once we get the collaboration from the other stakeholders,
I really hope so. I'm already hearing that there's some little fragmentation going on inside there and so on.
Friction.
Yeah, once we can get that collaboration,
I know what you are
support
speaking
and so
about.
on.
Yeah, but let me hope that works out and people put their head down and separate their differences and then we move together.
Because at this point in time, the farmers they're not really
enthusiastic.
They really like what's going on, right? And they're not too optimistic about the success of this team.
But you are a member of the team.
I'm on the team, and I'm going to give the support and whatever they need.
But you have to transfer that and that level of confidence to your membership.
Well, that'll be our role.
Yeah.
The society's role to really mobilize.
We had an expositive thing, maybe agriculture.
The increased grants, this is something that I've asked for last year, an increased grant for a separate grant for farmers of $50,000.
In what area? Just because you're a farmer, you must entitle 50%?
We asked for a special grant because I think the farmers need monies to really establish themselves because they're looking at technology. And if you are getting to areas like aquaponics and aquaponics, right?
I personally do like this just general granting. I say I must give a grant for a specific thing. Grant on four-wheel drive vehicles of a certain size, or grant on irrigation system, or grant or assistance if you fix an access road or something like that.
Production grant.
Not just a simple grant because you're in agriculture.
No, you have to state exactly what you want to do. So, for example, I mentioned anything about the technology, aquaponics. Set up aquaponics or hydroponics is a huge investment.
And very good, and it's very economic and easy, fairly easher and reasonable maintenance. Wet or dry season, the thing could work.
And I'm so glad that the THA is moving in that direction because at the society level, we have already started having training program in those areas.
Yeah,
technology.
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I see one advertised to UE, which is sometime in July, which I think I want to go.
Well, I want to make one point here. All this thing about agriculture and processing and all of that, we need to have a state-of-the-art lab, okay, like Kariri and so on, where when you make your products, they can be tested and know if they're fit for human consumption and that
quality
kind of thing.
Control.
That's right.
Control
Okay, so once you don't have a lab, you're not really progressing. So with all of that, you need to propose in this whole agricultural business and this processing and all of that, a state-of-the-art lab. And you start to train people from now while you're establishing a lab, send people to get training.
Exactly.
Okay, so we don't have to send things to Kariri. When we make a loaf of bread and we put it out there, our lab must say how much protein in that bread, how much fiber, how much whatever it is, wheat flour you have in there, and so on. We don't have to send it to Trinidad.
Yeah.
You see?
And that's that, just to build on that, you see, and beyond that, what we need, we need that kind of science to drive the agriculture. So they do the research, they come up with new type of varieties and so forth. They establish a seed bank, so there's continuity and all of that. We have to, you know, because we used to produce a corn, the local corn. You can't find it. They're giving you a 6 weeks corn now. We're planting that like we're crazy, and every time we have to go and buy corn plant. And who control the seed? Control your food production.
Biotechnology and bioengineering is what rules the agricultural sector.
We have to create an institution that can do the research. We have to build out 100 years from now, the next generation of the Begonian should have access to the what we call it, the local corn. And if we don't have a seed bank to preserve that and do the research on it over time, we're going to lose all our indigenous species.
And this is where I feel the sector had to pay more attention to what's happening at the tissue culture lab, because that is an area with a lot of potential, and I don't think they're putting the necessary resources into the place.
You have anybody working there?
It doesn't matter. Everybody.
No. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that. I say that but they are doing an excellent job at that place. They are producing some planting suckers and thing up in Bose Road. Real high quality storage. And people coming from Trinidad and buy them and so forth. And I'm saying that is, and that's where I'm going. I consider that part of the seed lab. The seed lab.
I was going to mention too that same technical lab was established about 5 years ago. And they had a plan or program to really link that silviculture lab production in Tobago.
You understand?
Well, therefore,
the
you should be
Tishiculture Lab, I
having...
understand, links or get their instruction or their guidance from the people in the division. What area you want these people to emphasize their production or their culturing? What area? You wanted to emphasizing banana, plantain,
they're doing banana.
whatever area. They can't just do it on their own. They have to get the guidance
The data.
from the farmers and
That's
from the
right.
technical people in the division.
And not only that, when you have suckers and so on,
doing an
you should be
excellent
having you should be having it on your airwaves and so on your media. Suckers are available, so everybody can go and buy.
But the
you
farmers
understand?
from Trinidad are buying it
Farmers from Trinidad understand the value of the land.
2,000 at $5 for one sucker.
Yes, but the state has, Jerry, the state have to inform people and educate people. We don't know. My husband planting all the time. We don't know they're selling suckers up there. How are we to know if you don't put it on the TV or put it on the radio or have some media?
That's what I'm saying. There's no program.
Yeah, that's right.
We spend the money.
It comes back to marketing and promotion.
That's right.
Promote what you have, market
That's
what you
right.
have, and so on. You have to ensure before you start marketing, you have a certain quality and so on. You know, we have 1 more minute to go before we wrap up. Let me hear some closing statements. From you, start from you, Neptune. Agriculture seems to be the big thing.
Well, I'm, as I said before, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm really hoping that whatever was said, or whatever was promised with respect to agriculture, is really come to fruition. The Chief Secretary mentioned that he wants to create that link again with tourism, even the link with the school feeding program. And I think that is critical. And we need to really get the farmers to buy in, because without that, the farmers and the workers in the agricultural sector, this thing going to fail. So we need to mobilize the farmers, get them to buy into whatever our program is, and get everybody to work together, because I want to see us increase production in Tobago and reduce our import, because we are importing substandard products.
Well, this budget must be an action budget. It means that you must listen to what we had to say here today, other people who you may find criticizing or giving their critique and so on, so you could tweak some of these things and make it for once. In how many years we've had the assembly, 30 or many years, an action budget, because action is needed now. Nothing is happening in Tobago.
I would say a delivery budget, a budget that delivers,
well, yes, whatever,
and contributed to economic activity.
But you need the action, you need the excitement, you need people, when you say something, people must be excited about it and want to know more, and so that's the only way we're going to develop. Of course, our 100 million for the marketing, we want that. We're not going to leave you alone.
Well, you see, and the budget should have been an output-based budget, because they should have told us how much visitors they intend to get as a return on that investment for $100 million marketing.
You have 20 seconds, 20 seconds.
But the important thing for me is that the most critical issue that Tobago is facing today have not been addressed with the level of confidence and preciseness that is required, and that is the issue of the Sea Bridge. And I think that I am hoping that, as the Chief Secretary would have indicated, he will bring that level of confidence on Tuesday. But a definite and precise statement needs to be made as to what is the resolution to this problem, and we need to get that fast so that people can restore their life to normalcy. I supposed to go to Trinidad, and I ain't going because I don't know if I go come back.
That's right.
All right, okay, we're out of time, but I think we need to come back here in a few weeks' time so that we continue this kind of discussion. As a matter of fact, we could do that on Tuesday, depending on what's happening. All right? See you next week with another interesting program. We appreciate all the people who made this program possible today, and our hardworking technical staff, our good friend down here who's here with me all the time in the studio. Actually, I ensure that the camera is fixed, and all those persons upstairs, and Aisha, who is shouting in my ear that I get out of the studio. Get out of the studio. Thank you all very much, Charmin, Anselm, and Nepi. Okay.